Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting today, Thursday the 13th of April, for the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board. Before we get started, I will just go around and get everybody to introduce themselves so you know who is in the room. I'll start with you, Kim.
Morena, Kim Henriksen. Morena, I'm Amy. I'm representative community board member for Kiri.
Good morning, I'm Bruce Mills and I represent the Whangaroa.
Good morning, I'm Josh Napandi and I'm the Democracy Advisor. I'm also the meeting administrator for today.
Belinda Ward, I am your chair for the day and I'm also the Pahiwaitangi subdivision representative on the board.
Good morning, Lane Air, Community Board for the Kiri subdivision.
Good day, everyone. Tyler Bamber, Waipapa representative.
Kia ora, everybody. I'm Jane Hinkle. I look after Kororaraka Russell and Oakwood.
Hey, everybody. Kelly Stratford. I am the councillor for Bay of Islands-Whangaroa.
Everyone, my name's Catherine. Morena, everyone. My name is Rochelle Dean. I'm manager of environmental services.
Thank you. Right, with that, we'll start off with a karakia. Do I have any volunteers to open? Thank you, Jane.
Whakataka te hau ki uru, whakataka te hau ki whanga. He mākena ki uta, he mātara ki tai. E hiaki te atapura, he huka, he teo, he hauhana, he hei moriora.
Thank you, Jane. So we'll move straight into apologies. This morning I have apologies from Councillor Anne Court, who sits on the board. I also have apologies from Councillor Babe Kapa, who we invite to the table at our meetings, but he does not have voting rights. I also have apologies from board member, Kawakawa Moroa member, Roddy Hapati Pihema. If somebody would like to move those, thank you, Tyler. Do I have a seconder? Amy, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, we have a number of speakers, a few speakers today, not too many, in relation to their funding applications that we have in front of us today. And I was going to start with Therese, but I don't think she's for Board Angel. She's not coming today.
Okay. Could I just note a perceived potential conflict of interest with the Arthur Thompson?
Sure.
Given my 21 years on the trust, I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Jane. Any other conflicts of interest? So we'll move on. So first up, we have Shirley May to speak to us for the funding application on page 105 for the Bay of Islands Country Music Festival. Morning, Shirley. Would you like to come forward? We actually are live streaming, so we do have a camera over here. Best position's probably to stand either near Kelly or Kim. Yep. Oh, on the circle, Josh suggests, on the floor, on the carpet.
It's not an exercise.
This is not American Idol, okay?
I just want to say thanks for the past funds that we've received from you and for even considering this one. The funds we're asking for is for Perry Clark's shuttle run that he does for us. And we bring in, though our venues are all fairly close, except this year we have Twin Pines, and we really need the shuttle for drink driving, keep us out of the police fights. So that's what it's really for, and I think it's $3,000 this year. And he just goes from venue to venue and drops off some of them at the accommodation houses and just stops at drink driving, and that's really important to us. So that's, yeah, and you know, our badge sales are way down this year, unfortunately. Last 3 years we worried about COVID. This year it's a Brendu, and yeah, we just go on and on. So that, yeah, Really, it's just with a shuttle bus of $3,000 that Perry charges us, and that's way down. It should be right away up, but Perry being local, he's kept the price down for us. I think he's only put it up $40 in the last 20 odd years. He's yeah, very good. So that's, yeah. So just think about it. It's a bill that I've got to pay, and if it doesn't get paid, it unfortunately comes out of my pocket because it's a private, like it's run by our trust, but I'm the head of that trust, so the accounts come to my name. So yeah, so thank you all for considering anyway.
Thanks, Shirley. Hang on, there might be some questions for you.
Okay.
Any questions from board members?
The shuttles goes around Paihi Haruru kind of area?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does all the venues in Paihi, and it goes to the wharf with a boat to go across to Russell. We don't go across to Russell because of the charges on the bus. It's
Yeah.
too high.
Yeah.
So, but it does all the venues, and it starts at midday and goes to midnight.
These are application that they lost this year.
I know it's the first time in the last 4 years. It's gone all over the place. I don't know, but this year got received by email. Okay.
Sorry, it's free for all,
It's the bus
They're
is
all-
free, yeah. And we let the people that have been drinking that are in some of those venues like the RSA and things, and we let them on the bus because it's best to go home on the bus than try walking home. So it's free. Anybody else?
Questions? Thanks, Shirley. I see you applied for 8,300 this year.
But we know we're not going to get that.
Yes, if your advertising costs, would that include the badges, the printing of the badges?
The badges, the printing, the posters. This year I've been printing, I've got a colour photocopier, so I'm printing my own posters this year to cut that $400 or $500 back. But the advertising is really radio, which has really gone up this year. Even though they've sacked half of NZME, it has gone up. And like we were spending 5,000, we tried to do not too much, but this year we've had to go up to 6.5 to get the funding over the radio.
Everything's gone up.
Yeah, everything's gone up except, yeah, and if we put the price badges up or the badges up, people just don't come. They just like $80. It's $80 for 3 days, and they don't stop twice to go and see a group for $80 for 1 hour. They've got 46 bands, and it's the cream. We've got the cream of Australia, like getting Adam Harvey out of Australia this year. It's going to cost me $1,000 plus accommodation in a rental car. But to get him out, it's like getting Dolly Parton out of America, get Adam out of Australia. So it's a real big coup for us this year.
And you're still going ahead with the street dancing on
Yeah, the line dancing's going, all the street
Saturday
music
and
is
Sunday?
going ahead, as long as it
Mhm.
doesn't rain.
Yeah.
So we still have that free.
Is that
And
just,
people that don't want to go to the venues, they go to the street and listen anyway.
is that just going to be in Pai here, Shirley?
It is only implied here, only because the Russell side, most of the shops are shut.
Okay.
I know, it's like to me, Russell, in the 33 years I've been doing this, to me, to go across to Russell and have all open markets or something. But it's never happened because, as you know, 90% of the people over there are German or do they go home for the winter?
Perhaps that's something that Jane can work on in her community for the Jazz Festival in August. And perhaps look at promoting it next year.
Association
Oh,
will
cool.
work and revitalize and
Because I always reckon people would go, they just swarm over to Russell if there's markets on and things like that.
I'll have a chat with the business association, see if I can.
People go across there, like the boats are always
Mm.
chocker and
Yeah. I know, because it used to be wonderful. We used to go and basically sit in the Duke for 2 days.
Yes.
And all the bands would come through.
They come around,
Wonderful.
that's right.
Yeah, so.
And
I'll
Dolly
have a chat
Parton
with the
show will be
business
over there this year.
Thank
Coming,
you.
but she's from New Zealand.
Thanks, Shirley. But we'll make a decision a bit later in the meeting.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And
though.
inform
Yeah,
you.
and thanks for the past stuff that you've given us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for all the work you do.
So.
Right, next up we have Michelle Wilson from Meraki Pai here on page 112. And the additional information is on page 14.
I lean on a chair. I feel awkward. I just got something in front of me. I don't know why, but I'm going to sit here and do this.
People find us scary, Shell,
Yeah.
but
I know.
We don't know
I
why.
thought she was saying like standing up in front of teachers.
Yeah.
We've got TV cameras on you.
So for those people who don't know me, I'm Michelle Wilson. I currently teach at Moriwa Primary School. I teach art and drama to all the intermediates that come to us for tech from across our rohi. And after school, I run after school programs to help reduce device time out of our hub in Kings Road in Paihia. A little bit of background about the Meraki Hub is that I started this journey about 5 years ago when I was working at Bay of Islands College. I noticed there was a huge shift in behaviours coming through. So I wanted to do some research on how we can connect our community and involve some of the processes that are happening within the schools and outside the community. Last year, I developed a hub and basically it was to help reduce screen time within our community. Help with that, it would help reduce the anxiety and depression, build up more positive conversations, get people out of isolation a little bit. And it's been really good so far. We've from February last year, we've engaged 5,000, just under 5,200 people in small little groups of workshops that encompass things like art and talks and exchanges, anything to do with grassroots learning or holistic wellbeing, or just basically to drive conversations. With that, I was able to work, because a lot of it works around maramataka and motoranga as well, without using such language. It was how to live with it, basically. So it was how can we, let's plant kumara today without going, it's according to the maramataka plan, we need to plant kumara, but whereas we just talk about the benefits of kumara, why it's an important time to plant the kumara, why it's an important time to harvest kumara, and work together as a community on that one. So we worked with Jack Sanders last year for the Matariki Festival down on the village, Paihia Village Green. We were able to engage over 300 people in some of the workshops that we had going on within the Village Green area that encompassed all the Matariki values. We'd like to do that again this year by asking that you help fund our marquee and our sound system. So that for the 2 days, I think it's 3,900, so that would cover the 2 days. During those 2 days, we would facilitate 14 different workshops and talks and demonstrations of what's been happening over the last 20 weeks. This will also help our community or demonstrate what they need to start preparing for over the next 20 weeks coming up to the Rising of Rehua. So it's helping our community to work more with seasons, get connected as communities, skill share, yeah, just basically create a more positive vibe and just enhance the whole Matariki Festival as well, and work with what Jackie's got going on the actual Village Greens. We would run an actual tent space along with all those workshops, and we would advertise those workshops the same way that we have been at the hub and down Kings Road. So it would operate for 10 to 20 people at a time, an hour each session. While we have displays and demonstrations going on within that space. I have applied for funding before for $2,000 to help with a workshop that we could present at the hub. We haven't used that yet, but I appreciate that so far. We haven't used it yet, but we have found someone from Hokianga who will facilitate a pūroro workshop using clay, and he'll come in next term, so we're going to use it for that. But what I'm asking today is just some assistance to be able to run the marquee. So just in case the weather fails on us, we can still facilitate those workshops and help our community just work with some of the underlining values of Matariki. So some of the things are, so like some of the workshops are setting intentions, like working with vision boards, yoga, mindfulness practice, windmill making sessions to help conversations around urarangi, bay bush talk demonstrations to help conversations around tupurangi, make remembrance wreaths, which worked really well last year, to help people facilitate the Putukawa Star and remember people who have passed and their tupuna. Ocean Mind talks, demonstrations to highlight Waite, seed swap talks to help with Tupuanuku, Te Awa Manuka planting restoration talk, which some of the workshops that we've been doing during the hub days to help facilitate with Waita and our awa and looking after it and how the importance of that is. Working with the Matariki Star, I'd like to work with a collaborated quilt session. At the moment, I'm working with all the intermediates. They've all done stencil work and we'll combine those with what the community does and we'll do a collaborated quilt piece. Weaving workshop, jewellery making, bug house building, benefits of upcycling talks as well. So it's our main intention is to reach up to 500 people over those 2 days. And as I mentioned before, I just really would like some assistance with getting the marquee in and having a sound system set up. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you, Sharon. Well done.
5 minutes.
Very exciting. Any questions? Sure.
How do people join the workshops?
So we've been running since February to February last year.
Yeah.
So we've advertised workshops and talks via Facebook media. That was our main target market, was because we wanted people off their devices.
Yeah.
So we use that as a platform. So we'll be advertising those as actual workshop times and people can sign up for them at that time as opposed to just walking in, so that the marketing's there. Yeah. And they'll all be free as well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, do you have funding from other sources for this activity?
For this activity, no. So because we have funding for running the workshops over the 20 weeks. Focus Paihia has helped us, Ministry of Education has helped us. I have asked the Community Board for 2,000 to help with workshops as well. And most of it's all crowdfunded. So we've run we did a huge big kubata sale where we sold them for $1 each. And so it's all crowdfunded up until this point. Yeah.
And that's at the hub on.
That's at the hub on Kings Road. We put ourselves right in the middle of the emergency housing estate, just to help provide, I guess, a demonstration of more new ways, positive ways to drive new habits, if you like. And we found that actually just giving space and giving time and allowing people to just have the kettle on and come and have a conversation with us during those workshops really opened up the community to come in and talk. So the whole Kings Road, one of the emergency housing areas, is now being evacuated of their residents. So we'll see tourist numbers go back in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of questions. So, presumably there's greater costs than just the marketing and sound system with what you're doing.
No, that's it. Everything is, we're bringing in people from everything we've been doing over the last 20 weeks, and it's people who want to share skill share, sorry.
Right.
And we want to, it's being able to showcase what's happened over the last 20 to 40 weeks. People have put their hands up, it's all voluntary, and they love the kaupapa of it, and we want to support the kaupapa of Matariki Pia Wharangi. So it was a good way to bring the community in for that.
And is there like an age limit, sort of youngest, oldest, or?
No, not at all. So some of the workshops will be children driven and some of the other workshops will be completely adult driven. Yeah.
Jane.
That's right. Congratulations on everything you're doing. I've been watching and it's
Thank you.
really, really lovely. So I'm just wondering, your business case is in the full funding application. That's very ambitious.
Yes.
Yeah, so how do you feel? You know, how are you gonna?
Just keep driving and moving it forward. If so by Matariki, because we started this project in February, it was with my intention to engage 7,500 people by Matariki. If I'm reaching that target, then there is clearly a need to keep moving forward with it and to keep building on that. Yeah, thanks, Jane.
Yeah, I really like how you're bringing the meaning of the matariki to, making it practical and
Yeah.
people don't understand.
One of the things I did notice last year was just even asking the shops to participate with window dressing, was that over the last 8 years, schools have been including it as part of their curriculum. But what was missing was that that the community didn't actually have that educational side behind what matariki meant, but yet the younger children did. So part of this project was to sort of drive experiences, if you like, with what's actually happening within kuras and with what's happening in communities. Because one of my biggest frustrations as a teacher is that I'm delivering this curriculum, but it's not getting reinforced at home. So this was one way to do it, well, to instill it subliminally, if you like. Yeah. Yeah, naughty, eh?
I'm not a teacher, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any more questions, Michelle? No, we'll make a decision a bit later in the day.
Thank
you so
you.
much for coming and presenting.
Thank
And
you, son.
yes, and boys,
Any
you
time to make?
go off and enjoy school holidays with.
We will, thank you. We drove back from, I was just saying to Belinda yesterday when she rang up, we were at Rainbow's End. So, yeah, it was a great day, so I made it back just in time for this. So thanks for your time anyway.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch later. Thanks, Joe.
We're going to.
Right, next we have Joe from Joe Lynch from Artaka Thompson. Sailing training. That's on page 128 of your agenda.
Kia ora koutou. My name's Jo Lynch from the Taka Thompson. Am I in the right spot? Yes.
Pretty close.
Okay, great. Hey, thank you for having me to speak. I think I chatted on Zoom last year, but yeah, thank you for the funding that you've given us prior. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you got the report back about the young person that you supported. So thank you to Catherine and Kim for helping me with the administration through this process, much appreciated. And of course, acknowledge Jane for her 21 years of invested in this program. So I've applied for funding for 2 young people to go on our 7-day voyage. I'd like to talk a little bit about our voyage, but I am assuming that most of you know what it is that we do. Would that be fair? You know about our program. So I'd like to tell you about a couple of new things that we're working on. You can see where we're heading as an organisation. So our 7-day program, the results from that program are consistent and quite profound, and it genuinely is because of 20 years of very deliberate approach from Jane and the team. So what we know is that at the end of the 7 days, our young people come off that program with a sense of possibility. Mostly they say, I can do way more than I ever thought that I could do. And so our thinking has been around what do we do with that? Because we're sending our young people back into their communities and kind of hoping for the best. But the stories that we would hear, and Jane will attest, people running up to you in the street and going, my kid ended up in the Navy because of you guys. So we knew from the stories that there is a long-term impact and that we have the power to build on the trust that we have gained through the 7 days to help guide our young people beyond those 7 days. So we started to link to education and employment opportunities in Northland. And so the 2 things I wanted to tell you about, one was that we actually created a maritime qualification. So we deliver the training for our young people to sit a deckhand qualification with Maritime New Zealand, and then we support them to find work in the Bay. For the operators on the water, very short of qualified deckhands, which means it limits the numbers that they're allowed on their vessels. So just such a win-win to say that we've got wonderful trainees, we can qualify them and we'll support them into jobs. And so we had funding from the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs for that, and we'll roll that out again in June. And the second thing I wanted to tell you about, gosh, it's just left me. We are doing a conservation program in the Bay. So looking to recover an area of the Bay from the Kinna Barrens. So the Kinna, from overfishing, the Kinna are overpopulated, strips out the kelp. and has just kind of decimated the bay. So an enormous amount of research in this space. So we're going to, as young people as a workforce, actually try to do something about that. So wonderful support from Hapu, the local scientists and conservation groups as a bit of a collective to see if we can do something about that. Yeah, those are the two things. We have an abundance of projects on the go, but really starting to think, how do we build on the success of our 7-day program? Do you have questions for me?
Thanks, John. Questions?
Hi.
Lane,
Hello.
how many people do you put on the boat at one time?
Wow.
Well,
12 young people and 4 crew.
where do they come from?
So they come from all pockets of Northland, and it's very deliberate that they don't know one another. So part of the magic of the development is actually coming, and you leave behind those ideas that I'm the naughty one, I'm the loud one, I'm the big sister, and you come and you can be who you authentically are. And so the kids start to see that they actually start to reveal themselves to themselves as well as to us, and we kind of guide that journey. It's quite deliberate. So your question is around where they come from. So we work with schools, different community groups to help us get the kids that will benefit the most. So it's about kids that are doing very, very well, all the way to kids that may have some challenges and everything in between.
So how many 7-day cruises do you run? Cruises? Well,
20. So we have one voyage later in the year that we're partnering with Totoki Voyaging Trust, so they'll bring their waka haurua and we will journey alongside them. So 12 youth on their waka, 12 on ours, and we'll do a combined, so something a little bit different.
Any other questions for Joe? Joe, last year I think you came to us for one, and I'd just like to point out in the application, it says it's specifically for two rangatahi from Te Hiku, because the application actually went to all 3 boards, so it was copy and pasted. I think you came to us last year for one, and the previous board was so excited that they gave you for 2, and now I see you're coming to us for 2.
Yes.
Is this going to be the new standard?
Yes, please.
Love it.
Well, the 2 that you gave was such a surprise.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Okay. Wonderful. Any more questions?
I guess we have to be mindful, Madam Chair, that we don't go any higher.
And I think it's also.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge all the things that we hope would happen are all very gratifying to see the.
Thank you, Jane.
Wonderful. No more questions. Thanks, Joe. I'll get on with your day.
Thank you.
Lovely. And finally, we have Anika Dickey from our Kirikiri and Jason from Far North Holdings. They've come to speak to us in relation to your application on page 121. And this is applying for our balance of placemaking funds. You'd like to turn to page 121. And in the additional information online, you have it on page 130. Sorry, 82. 82. So the floor is yours. I'll allow you 10 minutes rather than the standard 5, because I know that this could be complex and there may be a number of questions. So a bit of leeway allowed there. Floor is yours.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Anika, chairperson of our Kirikiri Community Charitable Trust. We've been on this journey of advocating for a downtown master plan for probably 12 to 14, 15 months with council. As you can all probably appreciate and see, our town is growing extremely fast. We don't have a comprehensive strategy around our downtowns. The proposed district plan coming through is actually changing how our downtown looks and feels in terms of it's becoming mixed use zone. And so we feel we are in a position where we really need to create a downtown master plan to be able to have a blueprint of what we want it to look like as a community, the looks and the feel, the commercial development opportunities, so that we're not having this haphazard, unplanned growth that we currently see. Through the process, you'll see that application was January, so it was a few months back, I think the cyclone, and then we got missed off the last one. But through this process, working more closely with council and Far North Holdings, we actually realised that Kirikiri is only one town of two growing ones, and we've got Waipapa obviously as well, and they are quite separate. So we do believe both towns need downtown master plans that we can use to have our vision, our opportunities, the growth, the development, and a blueprint of what that's going to look like for the community, and have it community led, and that's really important to us. We need council, obviously, central government funding, making sure any plans stick in terms of legislation. And we also think Far North Holdings need to be involved as well in terms of having a commercial spine to the master plans. There's no point having a plan on paper that is impractical, that we can't afford to pay for, and it just sits in the door. We're very much around action-based accountability and pragmatism as well. So I'm going to let Jason take over. He has been involved in the Te Hiku master plan, the one up in Kaitaia that was done, and some of that was funded by the community board up there as well. So he's got some experience in the space.
Cool, thanks, Anika. So yes, my name is Jason Cobain from Far North Holdings. I suppose my background is in property development, master planning of town centres. So this is not unfamiliar territory to me. So examples are Panmure, Pukekohe, very much service towns, a bit like Kirikiri and Kaitaia, but also doing master planning for DHBs in terms of new hospitals. So quite a range of experience in that regard. But in terms of the Kirikiri Waipapa one, and what Anika just mentioned, is that you've got two growing towns, and what you want to make sure of is that they grow at the same sort of rate that they need to, but at the same time as they also establish their own identity. And by not, I suppose I'll leave that there, by doing Kirikiri on its own, you could end up cannibalising the, I suppose, the identity and what the outcome could be for Waipapa. So by doing it at the same time, one, it's cost efficient with the consultants that need to be engaged. Two, you do have two separate channels that you can run, but there's obviously a lot of interconnecting points that to make sure. So for example, you've got big box retail out of Waipapa, you wouldn't want big box retail smack bang in the middle of Kirikiri. So, and at the moment you are seeing elements of that, and that's what we need to try and avoid going forward. Like Anika said, there has to be a commercial spine to be able to pay for this. So placemaking and community outcomes is a major factor, but obviously understanding the development opportunities, the land values, and the same out at Waipapa. And that includes infrastructure as well. So council have obviously got an understanding of infrastructure both in Kirikiri and Waipapa. So we need to investigate and dig a little bit more into that and what are the opportunities there. So the other thing is obviously there is the district plan, but there's also the spatial plan. So what I don't want to get confused about is what is the spatial plan and what is the town centre master plans. Very distinct in their outcomes. One is very much focalised. So you're talking about dropping a pin into the centre of town, and you're talking about a 500-metre circumference around that pin. So it doesn't go beyond, certain streets. It is literally very focused to town centre. Same as at Waipapa, you drop a pin at the warehouse and you go 500 metres in the circumference there. That's very much a focalised town centre master plan. Spatial plan is obviously a lot wider, as you know. So it's really, that is the main distinction between them. So happy to open up for questions, but there's a lot to absorb. And it's a 18-month program, and we're kind of relying a lot of it on the community board providing funding to help us out, and obviously we're relying on council to fund the balance. So, but we'll be working with a number of stakeholders, which are Crown agencies, private developers, private property owners, and obviously the business community and the community forces, community groups as well as yourselves.
I just wanted to add further that we did a survey, I think it was February. We had about just over 400 people respond to it. And one of the questions was the prioritisation of the master plans, and 85%, over 85% strongly agreed or agreed. So we have the community backing that we need to do this. Also, one of the big things in town with not having a plan is we have a one-way system that was temporary 15, 16 years ago. And what that actually does is it confuse, like the homestead is very temporary looking. No one really knows what's going on, what the plan is. We've, the ratepayers have purchased properties for something, a road, that some of it may be surplus that, could be commercialized to help pay for it. So there's lots of opportunities, but we're kind of stuck. And I think bringing it all together, including transportation, the way in which we want to change the way we get places, connecting Waipapa and Kirikiri up together, because they are too far apart, but there are opportunities to bring them closer together with connectivity. There's just so much that we need to nail. And even if we go into a recession and, properties don't get as developed as fast as possible, we know we're going to come out the other side. That's what's going to happen. So, and I've seen in the past that as the recession hits, we stop planning. We think the problem's gone away, and I can tell you that's never the case. It's just a temporary thing. So we need to have some plans in place. Yeah.
It's actually more advantageous to do this in a recessionary period, so you can understand what the opportunities are coming out the back end. So as you come up that economic upswing, if you like, then effectively then you get your development outcomes as well. So it is the right time in the economic cycle to be doing this. The other thing is we're looking forward nominations for 2 people from the community board to help us on the working group, so that you'll have a deeper understanding of what's happening on a weekly basis or fortnightly basis. So 2 nominations as well from this board.
Yeah, from Waipapa, obviously, and one from Kirikiri maybe. And also there are towns in the far north that have plans. And those plans, I think there's 7 of them: Poreke, Awanui, Morewa, Kaukau, Rawane, Kakohe, Pohiko. Yeah, Kakohu. They were all funded by Waka Kotahi because they were on the state highway, and they're also part of the cycle trail. We're none of those. So we have no priority, even though we're the fastest growing town. So they've got plans. to Hiku obviously have got their plan. I think the community board funded just over 100 grand towards that. Yep. So, and we've looked at Kaitaia, and whilst we've been advocating and fighting for it down here, we've not really moved that far until recently. So I really want to keep it going. I don't want to drag it out, and we need to have actions in behind the plan. Otherwise it will be pointless. So we are very driven to get this damn thing done. But it's the funding of it. Yeah. And we need to do it properly. So
questions? Thanks, Anita.
One further thing I just wanted to add is that this is over like an 18-month period, and I realise we're coming to the end of the funding cycle and there's not much left. So really an ideal situation would be to have a commitment from the board probably in that next round of funding, because this is a potentially $300,000 project that we need to find funding for. So I do realise that you're coming to the end, but yeah, ideal situation. Yeah, as it is an 18-month project.
So you would be seeking the full amount of our next round of placemaking?
Yeah, we're 2 towns here. We can't really look at it as one.
You'll be making a submission to the annual plan to retain that $100,000 placemaking to each board, I hope.
Yes, I will do.
There were discussions around removing that, which I spoke strongly against, but we do have.
Is that the annual plan that's just been released with the 2? Oh yeah.
So the annual plan is out for consultation now, so I do encourage you to, as Chair has mentioned, do a submission to the annual plan to retain the placemaking fund. Also, just Madam Chair, I just wanted to acknowledge Anika and as for their economic update too. We are likely getting into a recession, but the optimism, for people who won't pop up is
Thank you.
That's your 10 minutes.
Any more questions? I think for particularly probably for the new members, but it's important for us as board members to get our heads around understanding the different planning processes and how important it is and how these will feed into and become part of the overall spatial plan for the wider area. There is obviously we're bound by the district plan as well. So we do have a lot of, I guess, statutory documents to consider along the way. And this is really the start of your master plans, your CBD plans are like your community plans. That is the community's wishes. That really is, without that is the beginning, as we all know, of our planning process. So it's like we're working on spatial plans for a district plan, but we really need to start at the beginning with the community's input as to what we need. So I'm sure most of us understand the urgency with it being the fastest growing area in the Whanau district and the largest service centre, although Councillor Foy might.
I'll just add to that, everyone neighbourhood access.
Yes, yes.
I'm not suggesting.
Just as Focus Who does with their master plan, which is probably well over 10 years old now.
Sorry, can I make a comment as well? So,
Yes.
so the master plan has a I suppose a lens over the next 15 to 20 years.
Yes.
So what it does is it basically almost challenges the district plan as well in a way. So this is about what the town can look like for the next 20 years. So obviously district plans and spatial plans happen every cycle as well. So this is about obviously future informing councillors as well as to what is the future for Kirikiri and Waipapa from a district and a spatial plan perspective. So it might, whilst the master plan won't be confined by the spatial or district plan, it will try and punch out of those things to really show what could be done.
And we've tentatively looked at the area, and like for Kirikiri, it is pretty much the mixed use area. The new mixed use area is where the magnifying glass would be on that master plan. And a little bit extra, but it's essentially that area. So it is quite aligned with the proposed district planning zones as well. So yeah,
It's crucial because they have to talk to each other, don't they? These
they do,
plans,
and it's the right time. I mean, we've
Mm.
got the proposed district plan submissions out soon, the hearings coming, and so now's the time to influence that district plan, whichever way it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, mixed use zone is something our Kirikiri has advocated for. We do believe in that, but it's controlling that, what that looks like, how we do it, where it gets developed within that zone is, it's quite a bit. And we can see at the moment what's happening is, development's happening everywhere, not really following any particular rules.
Well, that's what you get with the plan changeover, don't you? You've got that the current, the transitional, the new proposed plan and the existing plan, and you get clever people working on the rules of both and picking the best. And that rush on development when a new plan is proposed. I mean, most councils have, the life is a 10-year plan. Ours has been 20, so it's 21st year or something.
I don't know how we've gotten away.
It's horrendously long, even though we have been through some plan changes. So yes, really, really important that we start moving. But I just would like to thank you so much for the work, particularly you, Anika, that you've put into really getting the community. It's an awakening, really, bringing groups together and working together as critical partners in the community with Vision Kirikiri and the Business Association. Great to see them resurrected and doing things. So there's a desire and a passion.
And an energy.
And when you've got that combined, it's a case of finding the funding to move forward. So
Vision Kirikiri obviously has to be engaged in this process.
Yes.
They've been very, all of their reports on the land.
Yes.
It's very reading, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. They've been fighting for this.
Yeah. And Chair, it's a relatively simple thing. There's a void, and it's not because of any of the slang, but the void is filled very quickly by developers. No disparaging marks about developers, but in the absence of a plan, the developers take over, and of course they do their development and they leave.
Exactly.
And so the community must be the driving force on the plan. And we have that. That we have not supported this process, and we must now. We're very lucky that we have groups such as Vision Kirikiri and our Kirikiri. was a number of weeks starting. We're very fortunate that it's
Yeah, and we all sing on the same song sheet too.
Yes.
Which is.
Like what we're seeing is a real transitional phase of the next generation, and you know, you're all the younger ones coming through with their families who have made this their base and have settled here and want to have a life and raise their children here, and that's what we're starting to see. That whole, we've been seeing it for a while, we just haven't had any traction in the planning side of it. So thank you so much for bringing this to the board and the work that you're doing through council, and I know you'll be onto the submissions through the annual plan and the long-term plan processes that are coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having us.
Okay, we'll make our decision a bit later in the meeting. Thanks, Anika. Thank you, Jason.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Right, so that brings us to the end of our speakers. And I will move on now to confirmation of the minutes, item 6 on page 8. I will move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board confirm the minutes of the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board meeting held on the 16th of March 2023 are a true and correct record. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Lane. Any amendments or alterations? No, so I'll take those as correct. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 7 on page 16, chairperson and members' reports. The recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the report for the March 2023 meeting from chairperson Belinda Ward, March 2023 and April 2023 combined report from member Jane Hindle, and April 2023 meeting from chairperson Belinda Ward, members Bruce Mills, Amy Slack, Lane Eyre, Roddy Habati Pihema and Tyler Bamber. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Bruce. Seconder? Thank you, Tyler. Take these as read and go through them for any questions.
Question on
Yes.
cruise ships.
Yes.
Comment on cruise ships and the environment.
Is this in my first report?
Yeah, the first is
In my second as well, I think.
probably.
It's a different vein. Oh, yes, that was to do with the ships being turned away. That I don't know the detail of what it actually was that they found on the hull or that they were concerned about, but it had been picked up in Auckland and other ports and they had been rejected. So we followed pattern, as I understand, and rejected those ships coming in into the Bay of Islands as well. So there's actually been, gosh, it seems like more ships cancelled than have come this season, but I dare say we're due for a roundup of the cruise ship season market reports very soon as they look into the schedule for next summer, which I believe is huge. So I can't give you any detail on that, but I'm sure it is available from Regional Council and or the Harbour Master.
Yeah, I just, the spring of cruise ships. So
Yes.
Russell and 5 years, so the quantity.
Yeah.
Each on each ship. So it's interesting to see.
Yes.
That they are being at least aware of their issues with.
Yeah. So those discussions are taking place and are never ending. I think the main question that's coming to us now is from a community perspective is how many are too many? We were looking at 70, possibly 90 pre-COVID. Some would say COVID was a saving grace when the ships stopped coming in many ways, but there are economic benefits that have to be discussed as well, and community benefits, district-wide benefits, regional benefits. Cruise New Zealand is a very, very powerful body And we're about to start discussing the cruise season for next summer because the timetables are set, I think, around about May, June. They start looking at, it's quite early. So we need to move early as well as a community, or as communities, to start discussing the subject so that we're up to speed.
Might not be the quantity, actually the size.
It's both, because there's also the capability of capacity, which say a ship has like 6,500 passengers. It may only have 4,000 on board, and half of those may only come on shore. So it's actually getting the actual, all the statistics as to how many are on the boat, who's coming, what's booked, what it is. So we do have every year a huge discussion, I guess, around, and there is a public meeting held with all the interested bodies. Last year, pre-cruise ship season, pre-summer, I attended the very first hapu iwi consultation engagement over cruise ships, which is the first we've ever had in Paihia, and I have to say it was an excellent turnout and really great discussion and some very, very positive criticism and issues that many that were misconceptions, misunderstandings, but also some very critical and crucial issues, particularly environmentally and relating to our infrastructure. And the one thing that is often overlooked is our increased levels of service required for those numbers of people coming on shore that shouldn't be a burden to the ratepayer. That's actually a really big topic of discussion. Every toilet that's flushed, every bit of paper that's used, every piece of rubbish that's dropped, every bus movement over the bridge and along to Karuwha and the State Highway. So there's many issues that impact on the community directly, and they're obviously separate from the Cruise New Zealand talks at a much higher level with the economic benefits. So I'll keep you all informed, and if you hear when they're going to start discussions, we certainly will be involved in our communities. Yes. Yeah.
That's good then.
That's great. Yes.
These together.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes the economic benefit, Madam Chairman, is not directly focused on those who bear the brunt of the.
Correct.
And that's one of the things that needs to be adjusted. Somebody can be back over here, but they be on the front for transfer money.
Okay, a discussion to be continued, but yes, that is one of the things that has also been discussed. So, any more questions in that part of my report? I turned it down. Yeah. No. Okay, moving on. Next we have Jane's.
Very long.
Yep. So this is for February and March. Any questions in there for Jane? You might want to just take a minute to reflect on the contents. You have been very busy, Jane. Pardon? Yes. True.
That's true.
I see you're getting a lot of comments and positive traction over the meetings that we've arranged with Farmers Holdings, which is great.
Bit by bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Exhausted.
Any questions there, Jane? No, so we'll move on to my next one, page 24. So you'll note the comments in relation to the cruise ship markets on the top of page 25 there as well. Focus Paihia Community Trust have an agreement with Farnworth District Council over managing the Paihia Village Green. And some of you will be aware that this has been a bone of contention in the community from the retailers and the stall holders on cruise ship days. And we had a public meeting last year, I called a public meeting, and got all the concerned parties in the room, and we agreed to continue to modify the agreement, and Focus Paihi were in agreement with that. We moved forward for the summer season. I've yet to see how successful it is. As I say, I don't believe that there's been a lot of trading going on craft market days because of the lack of ships coming in, but we're due to revisit that agreement now to start talking about that, so that we actually have a clear, concise direction as to where the community is going for the next season. Focus Pay here usually call for expressions of interest around May, June for the craft stall holders. So there's a very long lead in time, as you can see, between seasons. We basically get to Easter and start thinking about the cruise ship schedule for next summer. So I've just have a RFS in for that at the moment to see who we're going to be dealing with. It was previously the two staff members that one that led it and one that worked with me on it are no longer in those positions or at council. So I'm just a little bit hanging in limbo at the moment. I'm wondering who I'm going to be working with. So Kim's got that email for me. Just wanted to point out on page 25 there, I actually have had a number of those RFSs. I'd just like to compliment staff working through these. A number of the incidences have actually been resolved to my knowledge. The roosters and sheep in town were pretty horrendous. That's been going on for quite some time, having roosters cock-a-doodle-looing in a commercial area in the middle of town, and their expired bylaws and working through monitoring and enforcement has been very challenging, but I'd just like to compliment staff on getting there, and also responses in relation to water taste, smell, quality, and the removing of the bags over the signs on, because quite often things get done for events in my area. I'm not sure if you experience the same thing in preparation for a large event like Waitangi Day, but nobody monitors afterwards removal of all those things. And we had weeks with plastic bags over the signs on the Waitangi Bridge and people flying across there. And so, yes, just like, anyway, just complimentary about the fact that my RFSs are being dealt with quite speedily at the moment, which is great. In fact, I had one resolved in the car on the way here today. A legal dumping issue. Yes. No, we haven't got a timeline. Yeah. Thanks for that. Can you follow up on that, Kim, please?
Yeah. The could be bad sharing. I see the item.
Yes.
My understanding is that they're back up and running already.
They're operating on a temporary license. I haven't seen them operating, but I did have a phone call to say that they were operating. So I can't comment on that. I haven't been around and checked it out. I have checked out the exterior of the premises, but I have a number of Lagoima requests, and one is to do a site visit prior to the hearing. For those of you that aren't aware, I actually did make a submission to, which I've never done before, on behalf of my community as the local subdivision representative on this particular application. And there has been, as you see, 31 objections to it. And there is always a bit of a reluctancy for people to speak to their objections, which I can understand. It's nerve-wracking just standing up in front of us asking for funding applications. But hopefully, I think there's about 13 so far that have expressed a desire to speak. I expect this to be a very big hearing from the community feedback and interest. They haven't set a venue yet. Something perhaps that Kim could follow up on, please, to see 17th and 18th of May. Everybody's waiting. Oh. Kingsgate. Thank you. when you've got confirmation, I'd appreciate if you could flip that through to me because there are quite a few people wanting it put out there in the public notices. I haven't seen anything as contentious as this since the Lighthouse Tavern days, when the whole town turned out at the old Beachcomber Hotel. And it was, I think most of us sat there with our mouths open. We just couldn't believe the whole collaborative, collective effect and impact that a community can have when you are perhaps at wit's end or you really have concerns for the safety of your community at large. So I'm expecting this actually to be a very challenging hearing. And we will circulate because not everybody uses social media, but we will circulate once we know confirmation of that particular. For those of you who are interested in the process, you may want to come along just to observe. It's Tyler, I'm sure, you know, with your experience with liquor licenses and things, it's not easy to object, just to get your objection accepted. I felt that was the first step. And Kelly, sitting and being experienced in decision making on those committees, it's not an easy process, not an easy thing to object. It's not an easy thing to stand up and present in a hearing. It takes courage and confidence. It's not something I'm looking forward to, but I feel, you know, when a community is looking to you as their representative with the weight of the world on your shoulders, then you have to step up and communicate and have a go. So it'll be a very interesting hearing, and you can learn a lot out of them if you ever want to have similar community concerns. I know just even with the issues we're having with vape stores now, you know, it's a real parallel with the health in our communities. You know, we've gone from smoking and now way more people seem to be vaping than ever smoked. So we're faced with a lot of health issues in our small towns, and they target the low deprivation areas. So yeah, it's challenging, and it's good to see how those processes work. They're very formal, but they're something if you ever want to participate in. So I encourage you to come along and listen. Thank you, Councillor Stratford, Deputy Mayor. No problem. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, so that's that. So yes, it'll be a big thing for you. So it may interest you, or I know there's a number of, well, not a number, but several other licence holders that have spoken to me in my area who naturally can't make submissions because they're competitors in the industry, and yet they have a lot of knowledge and experience and perhaps evidence as in some of these cases that they can't put forward. So it's also good for them to come along and sit and I just think learn as to how you can object and to what people's concerns are and how they can be mitigated if it was ever going to happen to you as a licence holder. It's not the easiest thing to work through. So thanks for raising that, because it is a really big issue in my area. Yes. Yeah, and it's not just my area, it's actually the wider community, because when you have people travelling from Kawakawa and Kirikiri and Opua and Russell to come to these venues, they've got to get home, you know, so there are
places like that.
Yeah, and of course we all know we don't have public transport there. Anyway, save the dates if you're around and would like to be there. Moving on. Bruce, any questions for Bruce?
Simple.
Yeah.
I would like to comment on a couple of things.
Yes.
I happened to be out at Kapo Bay the other day doing the whispers. So that little drag comes out a couple of times a year. Yeah, bumped into one of the guys whose land that walkway, which I'd like to see really, you know, get it back onto the table again. Yeah, and started off very negative. I just bumped into this chap by chance. Yeah, and then after chatting to him though, yeah, you could see that we could work our way through it.
and I left there really confident actually. So I said, well, that's one ticked off. The other one I'd like to just missed this report here, but I had the opening of the playground at Tocha North second, and it was absolutely amazing. There must have been about 100 people turned up from the middle of Tocha. I mean, it was,
Wow.
and the kids had a blast. The whole community was there. That was a exceptionally positive thing. And,
So next time, email me and I'll put something on Facebook for you to say, how cool is this?
well, actually, I haven't seen the photos of it yet.
Someone thanked me, is that?
So I did task, I passed credit over to Lane and his efforts as well to this playground up there, but it's very appreciated by the community. Very good.
Such a positive.
It's great to win some once in a while.
Yes.
Going back to Taupo Bay, where's the walk?
There's a paper road which goes basically through the mine. Actually, so that's one part that I'm sort of there.
Yeah.
And the Runo Whangaroa is supporting at this stage, so I'm hoping we get back again. When it comes over to the Plains Cove, basically.
Is that a formed track, Bruce, or is it just one of our wish list tracks from the community?
It's definitely a wish list, but yeah, it was well up, and then there was one particular person who was awarded on the whole thing, and everyone just, yeah. I believe that one person has either gone away or backed off a bit. But I'm hoping we can sort of work our way through it again with the support of the mine.
So this, where you're talking about at Taupo Bay, I'm assuming that will link with the Te Hiku Ward coastal track that Christine Hawthorne's been
Well,
working
yeah,
with them
yeah.
on.
All part of that linkage, but
Exciting.
I mean, it was the road that the track, whatever. They used to take all the cream up there and over into the Whangaroa Harbour dairy farms in Taupo Bay all those years ago, and it was picked up down the end of the harbour and taken back to the dairy company, which is up at, if they would have gone up the river, which you can't do now, to the dairy factory in Kaya. So it's got quite a bit of history there. It is pretty overgrown. So, but some years ago, you may have recalled, they did a matrix on the different tracks. That actually came out at the most affordable track that they could put through. I don't know why that was like that, but I'm sure, you know. So I'm just trying to get the ducks in a row before we see.
Well, particularly if there's linkages there, if Te Hiku are going to work their way down there, we
That's
need
right.
to start looking at that. And,
Yeah.
and if there's a lot of stories to be told, it might be one that the board prioritises in their strategic plan.
There's
as
a
a
lot of
linkage.
history up in there.
Mm.
That's the sort of thing I'm hearing, something's all the burial grounds, but I have lost one of my supporters, lovely old Kamata there, and he told me the stories, and it's good to hear that from someone who's brought up in that area about the burial grounds and what have you. But he did say, I mean, some of this person who was objecting, going on about the rubbish and stuff, and he turned around and said, it's our own people going up there, and which is disappointing to hear.
Bruce, can I just ask you a question? On the Western Arm, you can go into a little cove, I think it is, like,
Yeah, let's go.
and you can go up through the mangroves. If you take a dinghy or
Yeah.
boat, you can go up through and there's 2 waterfalls.
I haven't even been into that part, quite honestly.
And there's obviously a track there because periodically.
Oh, you've got the track goes over to Tocha North.
Yeah.
The Owako track, which goes through to Tocha North.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't go there all the time, but
No, no,
various
no.
summers.
And this
whenever
would
you
connect
take a
up-
boat up there.
Yeah, that would connect up to that, you see.
Yeah, it would connect.
Yeah. There's a,
popular track.
Yeah.
there's a cottage, sorry. There's an old cottage or something here called Moses Cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is one of the Moses guys. In fact, I met one at the pool meeting last night. Yeah, they were really supportive. So that's a good thing, to get those linkages.
We're bringing that up because it's called Lane Cove, or yeah.
I just happened to have been up there. I managed to break the outboard motor on a mangrove and had to row back out all the way across.
Oh,
the other
no.
Right, moving on.
Right.
Amy, any questions for Amy? I see.
Just the lack of signage around town, are you talking about like the big NZTA?
I'm thinking it's probably, I've just had some people comment about it who are not from here because I wouldn't notice, because,
Yeah,
but it's probably more Whakatane type of stuff.
it's,
So I need to just clarify more about where it's been done.
And the leaves on footpaths, they're a real slip hazard. Did you lodge an RFS for that?
I got someone to do it themselves.
Excellent.
Yeah. And just cyclists, I had a lady ringing me out, elderly, who was bowled over by a kid on a bike, thinks it was maybe an e-bike, and just shared footpaths, and I was like, it was outside, kind of, on Kitty Kitty Road, and I was wondering I don't really know what to do to help her with. She's saying like worrying about shared footpaths with cyclists, and how do I find out if it is a shared one?
we're on,
Opposite Super Bowl,
oh, yeah.
yeah, by the
Yes.
retirement village. But I would say it wouldn't be.
Depends on the width of it.
Getting kids off the footpaths. My standard line is, do you know why they call it a footpath?
Yeah.
No, it's not like it. It's hard, it's, and as we actively encourage bikes in other areas, we're saying, hey,
Good
use
to
bike.
it, like, I don't know if the roads aren't safe, but it's shared footpath. Just,
Well, on very wide
And it-
ones,
it
you
has to
see,
be, exactly.
you see them painted, don't you,
Like in that road.
down the middle, so that, you know, and then there's where I live, it's the left-right rule because the European tourists all walk straight towards you, which is challenging for joggers if they're in their dream world running along straight at people. But yeah, perhaps there is, you know, something we could note with the shared pathways that we develop moving forward, that we actually have either lay-by passing lanes on the side of them, which was suggested for the whole road development. I don't know if that ever happened, but so that mobility scooters, because a lot of people can't move out of the way in a hurry. And yeah, it's a good one to note. The Disability Action Group.
I would, Madam Chair, the main has a 2.5 metre pathway. That was the standard. That came out of my association with the disabled. I don't know how we would do it because the council have their own things. I actually believe that all footpaths in urban areas like this should be 2.5 because that gives us enough room with a kid with a bike or a mobility scooter or two. But I don't know how you go about that.
It's a case of keeping people in their lane, isn't it? You know, some go straight down the middle and.
Would be interested to know what the bylaw says, because I mean, in
Bylaw
ancient
1.8.
times,
Is it
bikes
1.8
were
now?
on footpaths.
They've increased it, Madam Chair, I believe. I think to 1.8, and that's still, and no disrespect to any of the other staff, I mean, they have to deal with what it is, it's the cost of when you widen the footpath and space. You know, we're looking at Honey Hippie. Chairman of the Disabled Action Group lives now on Honey Hippie Road. And you know, and you look at it, and you say, well, we'll encourage kids to use the road. But for at least 2 periods a day, Honey Hickey is busier than probably any road in Northwood. So, and you're going to say that the kids use the road.
And it's so white and footpaths so close. It's like, can't believe there hasn't been someone.
Honey Hickey, funnily enough, has the back set of the houses on Honey Hickey, especially up to the high school, are far enough back that you could widen the footpaths.
Okay, a discussion for our master planner.
Yes,
group.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, any more questions for Amy? No, moving on, Lane. Any questions, anything you need to point out to us that's
well. And if anybody wants to take issue with Clark Road?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it could be.
Going through a process, so
Yeah, but with this. Kitty
yes.
master plan, but I might be too late.
And we're making exceptions to our existing rules and regulations regarding permits.
Yeah.
We're prepared to waive something. I think if we waive them,
Yeah.
there should be some extenuating circumstances of why we would be prepared to waive.
Mm. Again, something to take into discussion.
Yes.
If you're nominated, so that's right. Moving on. Roddy is not here, so we will take his as read. Tyler, any questions for Tyler?
Been away till that night.
Good to see everyone's reports. Thank you for that. Right. No further questions. That's moved by Bruce, seconded by Tyler. All those in support? Against, carried. Moving on. Item 7.2 on page 36. I'll move the recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board recommend that staff do not proceed with the proposed location and undertake further research for an alternative location. Do I have a seconder?
Get it on
Tyler?
the table, Matt.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you. Yes. Any comments? Member here.
Madam Chairman, I'm somewhat confused. When this actually came to the board, it was presented by staff. I was very happy with their process. They had gone through a whole series of locations, and I thought they came to what I considered to be a logical conclusion. But I really didn't have a feeling for one or the other. I'm just concerned that somehow or other the community board is now being asked to validate the change in that when we weren't really involved in the original process. I thought their process was fine, but now we're being asked to tell staff to stop or change. And I'm not sure why we're ending up in that position.
Our recommendation was to go out to community consultation. That's happened, and as you can see, we have a huge pushback. You would have received the
There was
main
a lot
objection.
higher. Wasn't it?
Sorry.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
210 were in
Yeah.
support, and it's only the local.
And due to the fact that this is actually fee simple land, and we assumed that the consultation was going to be going out to reserve zone sites, our reserves under our delegation, and it would be community board led. Turns out the piece of land, the only piece of land that the, when I say the only, the final piece of land that the consultants have come back with is actually not zoned reserve, and therefore would have to go through quite a process and a resource consent to actually we don't have the budget to do that at all. It's and the outcome is likely not to be very successful. So it makes sense not to go ahead with that site. Needless to say, it's I feel from the community board perspective, we can still have our sights set on developing an area or a site, and I think the focus that we need to turn to is basically multimodal connectivity, so that we are directing, and again, this will come into your master planning for Waipapa Kirikiri and go into form part of that larger spatial planning. But it's all about connectivity. So it's good to know that that land is there and that council own that site, but we certainly won't be advising council to go ahead and develop that particular site.
It's interesting to see this new development also had the dog
Yes,
plan in
yes.
it. Yes, that wasn't known at the time.
Yeah.
Original decisions.
No. So what it was discussed actually at the workshop, but there is a bit of history to this because the previous board did have a workshop and was presented to Elaine and I Bruce, I don't think you were there. No, it was Member Hookway.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we do have some background to this, and I didn't realise that the particular site was a reserve either. So sometimes we go through these processes, but there are 230 odd other reserves around Kirikiri to look at in your planning, and
Size wise though, they
We-
obviously don't. They don't.
Oh, really?
dog exercise parks are very expensive to establish. So I think, yes, if we, in these tight times with a rate increase, there is a dollar figure in the annual plan, which we will discuss when we have our workshop after the meeting. We may wish to make a submission in relation to that item, and that is in the draft annual plan when we do our submission. Discuss that further, so.
My impression is that the main objection is around like the entranceway being from Waitotara. But if we had other access from the Te Tua Waitanga side, would we still not be able to?
We would still have to go through for a dog exercise park to go through the resource consent process, yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Yes,
In its needs.
we just need to look at the overall concept of what we're trying to achieve and the number of reserves and the most suitable areas in that vicinity. I think the vicinity is we all agree, is fabulous, and Waipapa needs something. You know, you've got Rollins Wood, you've got, you know, other on-leash areas, specifically a dog area. And it's still got that semi-rural feel around Waipapa at the moment, and yet it's being built up quite intensively. That area is being used for people to exercise dogs, but it appears at this stage, looking at the report, that is predominantly the local people in that neighbourhood and street that are using that area.
Critical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so moved by myself, seconded by Tyler. All those in support of the recommendation? Yep, against?
Okay.
Bruce, you're against? Sorry? Against, Lane? Any further discussion around that? You want it noted? Noted.
Just, so this is. Are you saying that we can't really proceed because of the resource consent process?
The advice, it's, and it's we're actually, because it's not a reserve, it no longer sits under our delegation. So this has come back to us as part of the process.
Yeah.
And council will make the decision. This is purely a recommendation back to council. If they choose to proceed, that's entirely up to them. But we're saying, no, it just doesn't make sense. We don't have the money. We've got 72,000, I think, budgeted to do that, which is,
Not even enough
I
money.
mean, not even to
Whatever.
establish yeah, without major objection and having to go through
Yeah.
legal processes, so.
But it really is paused until we've got that new development of their site.
Yeah, but this is just pertaining to this
Yes,
specific site.
and I guess what we're saying is,
Yeah.
there is something else coming along. That
Yes.
for alternatives, so
Yes.
giving up on the dog owners,
Oh, no,
you know,
no.
I think it's important.
No, not at all.
No, that's right, it's really important to note
Yeah.
that it's not.
Yeah.
We're saying come up with an alternative,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yes.
Right, that's-
I think
yeah,
that's the thing.
That's the
And
fair
yeah, don't want to say
message.
or we want to say we want to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just a specific site and the specific report that we're addressing at the moment.
I think the site's good, but apart from.
It being a freehold
Yeah.
piece of
Yeah.
council land that we
Yeah.
can't really,
That's
that
okay.
we don't have jurisdiction over and
Yeah.
can't easily develop.
And that would be the
So-
case for all of that farm area that they purchased to the poor Waitanga site, correct?
I
Is it-
can't answer that because I'm not sure on
Answer
the
the main.
zone in there.
Oh, okay.
Kim,
Too sure, I'd need to.
but there is a
find out.
dog exercise area and training area in the plans.
Not the same
for that.
park though, right?
No, but that
Yeah.
area could be extended. It's a separate conversation.
But through the chair,
Okay. Right, I'm going to put it to the vote. So all those in support of the recommendation?
This abstains.
You're going to abstain? Okay. And 2 against, so that's carried. Thank you.
That's a good outcome.
Satisfied, are we? Okay, so we're moving on to item 7.3, al fresco dining application, page 63. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board provide comment on the al fresco dining application from Spice Grill. Do I have a mover? Amy, thank you. Seconded Tyler. I did have a few questions on this, which is really straightforward, but I had a few questions on it, probably due to the artist's impressions of the actual area. So just before we kick off the discussion, initially the applicant did apply, hoping to get 3 tables and chairs. You will see on page 69. And the measurements were quite bizarre, 700 centimetres, and then it was 80 centimetres. So I got clarification on that from the report writer. And clarification is that the area which is shown, and I didn't see it, I'm not colourblind, but I didn't see it at first on page 64. In the Google Map picture, there's a long skinny blue rectangle in front of the shop. It's an aerial view. I don't know why I didn't see it, probably because it's a terrible photo. And I couldn't determine whether it actually went to the edge of the footpath either. But that is actually the designated area. And if you look at the, I think it's crudely drawn, but apparently it's not from the processing perspective. Those 2 arrows actually indicate the end boundary of the licensed area. So the up and down of the arrows is actually misleading. Misleading.
For that area, like
So no, that's separate. They can't have a liquor license. They have to apply for that separately. This is purely al fresco dining. So it's actually 18.6 square metres, and it's on the inner side. Well, it can't be on the outer side because you'll see on the picture on page 65, there's 3 posts in the footpath. Yeah. But it's directly in front of the building, in line with the footprint of the building, which I would have liked to have seen written in this, in the actual approval, because that is what gets put on the shop frontage. What you see on page 75, the approved plan, is actually what gets, that's right. If you see, it says there that that has to be displayed. It's about as clear as mud to the layperson. If I was having difficulty deciphering the actual licensed area, it should actually be coloured on a scaled plan. We've seen examples in the past of plans crudely drawn, totally out of scale. And I think it's unacceptable, and I'm not meaning to criticise staff here, but it would be really good to see things approved with a scale and a proper designation.
There's no car park on that.
So I mean, I don't have an issue with the report. It's actually Waka Kotahi and NTA have both acknowledged the minimum footpath width, which from our board perspective would probably be the main area of concern, bearing in mind they border a state highway. So they are only looking to put 2 tables and chairs, 800 square, and there's plenty of room to put those and still allow the minimum footpath width, looking at the picture on page 65. So I'll open. Yes.
Just clarify. Measure the at 2.5. However, those posts that hold up the veranda are substantially in.
Yes.
I would suspect. Well, so somebody coming along who's going to have, I mean, I'm actually quite happy to support it, I think. But it's a bit deceiving there. Going to end up zigzagging around.
So what you're right, it won't, the tables will be as shown against the wall on the front of the frontage of the shop front, and they are both positioned in between where the posts are, allowing I have to say it's much more generous footpath width than we have in our towns and villages, but just saying. At least you're not negotiating 100 signs as well.
Way back in about 2003, I think it was one of my first We got the new footpaths put through.
And see that red planter to the right of it? It's a huge.
I was going to say,
One of our board members was instrumental in maintaining those.
I was going to say the photograph on page 75, my father makes the red plants.
Yeah, which is not in the licensed area, so.
No, I know, but,
Anyway.
Don't make me shift those. They are.
Anyway, it was just getting clarification, because if you look at conditions, 5, trading is limited to the area designated. In my view, the map drawn that's going to be displayed in the approved plan is not clear, the designated area. It implies that they can put them anywhere on the footpath, and they may actually choose to put them on the outer edge, which does happen. It happens.
They've drawn them on there.
They have drawn them, but if the licensed area is 18.6 square metres, they may choose to put them anywhere within that. That is the licensed area, and they're within their right to put them in that area. So what is shown on here does not say the spot X is exactly. We would assume, looking at the hand-drawn map, that that is where they're going to go. And I don't have an issue with those. I'm not sure whether any of you do. Got a staff member here who can talk to it. Thank you.
Sorry, kia ora. I came here because team's on leave and so I'm here to speak to this one if necessary. We can certainly, the draft license, we can certainly add other conditions to that. And so happy to put in those conditions that the tables must be up against the building.
And then not alongside where the poles are to give people, that would be my only concern as well.
And I would also perhaps recommend that we get a scaled
I would,
for that. So I'm happy. And so that is very clear.
They need to go on X marks the spots, really.
Strangely enough, Madam Chairman, if they were in fact on the out, right on the edge, they would be less obstructive to the footpath than being.
Could be in line with the planter, wouldn't they?
That's right.
You've got pedestrian traffic safety issues with people opening their doors, it's a parking area, right? There's no yellow lines there. And serving food walking across. And if they get a liquor license, they will also be serving drinks across footpath. So I don't think we should complicate it. I mean, it's obviously, there's not even a single person in sight walking down the street in that.
I was just going to say, don't get snapped, we have hordes of people pouring down the road.
But it is the only great takeaway in Kaio.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not anymore.
You're on your boat.
What's that?
Not anymore.
Is there another one?
Another one starting again.
Yes, the old
Oh.
Saddlery is back and opening for
Oh, there
takeaways.
you go.
Today, I think.
Kaio's
Yeah.
booming.
Yeah, I think if we have a proper scale map showing the posts and the tables. it'd be-
It's just
like
where the tables have to be in relation to the poles.
Spaces on the paper, which is-
Would point out that the al fresco dining was across a road.
Mm-hmm. We don't go there.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah,
Anyway, we'll discuss
we
that.
shouldn't be too big.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody happy now? I've pointed out all the little issues I discovered in that. Bruce, it's your turf. Are you happy?
I'm very-
This is all, yep, good as start.
Yeah, there's
they're great.
the person with the mobility scooter that rocks through the
Yes.
fire, right, who probably needs that space.
Oh, there is?
Well, I don't
There
think.
could be.
He's got
Right.
worse problems down the road,
Exactly.
don't you worry, so.
But we don't want to create more issues.
No. Navigational issues. Well, I think they're very blessed to have such a wide footpath. Actually, they're probably the
still
envy of the
famous for-
district.
We built it for expansion.
Okay, so everybody happy with that? Right, let's move on. That's moved by Amy, seconded by Tyler. All those in support? Against? Carried.
The recommendation is to provide a comment.
Oh, provide the comment. We provided the comment. So you want to,
But yeah,
I
so-
need to
and-
capture it.
so that
And
we support the application. Take
I
it
would
and
say
say,
probably, yeah, mean that a clear scale plan with information showing the.
clear.
Is that gonna cost
Make it clear that
To
the
create.
With a clear scaled plan.
Support the application with a clear
With a clear
plan.
scale plan showing table placements,
For a free.
table
product,
placement,
Consider it.
your placement area. And the existing veranda posts and plantings. Does that suffice?
Wants to have a go at spelling veranda.
A-V-A-H, it's got an H in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the H is coming up with a, I know it has a H, but the H is coming up with a.
Just ignore Mr. Google, they don't get it right.
All right, so you want to read the
Yes, so
recommendation?
Islands-Whangaroa Community Board support the application with a clear scaled plan showing the table placement area and the existing veranda, post and plantings. That cover it? Amy, are you happy with that? Tyler, are you happy with that, a seconder? Okay, all those in support? Carried, thank you.
Chair, if I may, it wasn't the Kingsgate, it's the Scenic Hotel.
Sorry, I can't hear with those fridges.
For the hippie patch hearing.
Yes.
Scenic Hotel.
Oh, scenic, thank you. Okay. Excellent, thanks for clarifying. Oh, moving on. Would you like to stop for a comfort break? Are you all right if I move on? Happy to move on?
Do that.
Okay. Yes, yeah, we've got lunch coming about noon. Thank you. Lunch coming about noon, so if we can just get through this, we'll be fine. So turning to item 7.4 on page 76. So we have the new lease to Fens, 721 Topo Bay Road. The recommendation is that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board recommends that Council A approves a new ground lease to be issued to Fire and Emergency New Zealand over 721 Topo Bay Road, Wanganui, being Lot 1, DP 200100. The terms of the proposed lease shall be one term 30 years, 15 plus 15 years, rental $113 plus GST per annum, FNDC charges and fees, and charges schedule 2022-2023 community leases. And B, approves further conditions to be negotiated and agreed upon by the Group Manager Delivery and Operations and Fire and Emergency New Zealand. C, approves transferring ownership of buildings and improvements to Fire and Emergency New Zealand for $1. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Bruce, and a seconder? Jane, thank you. Any discussion around this? Previous board members will be aware of this as we did support it to council, recommended to council that it go out to community consultation.
My only chair, question,
Yes.
Chair, is it talks about the rental so much per year based on the visa charges scheduled. Will that change as that visa charges schedule change?
It does, and it just has been reviewed. Hasn't been done for years, and it's just been reviewed, and it will be reviewed again. And
Might for clarity just say
how many years? I'm not
the
sure.
change.
For some reason, I think 5, but that could be wrong.
I think it would be good to clarify whether it will change as the visa charges change. Whether it will
Well, it
be
does.
same fee.
That's a living
It
schedule,
does.
and that is reviewed. So it's a minimal. It's a
Yeah,
minimal.
no, I understand that. Guys, that it's going to be $13.
But 30 years.
30 years, based on the current.
Oh,
schedule.
okay. You read it that way.
Well, that's
Okay.
right. What I'm saying is it might be important to clarify
Through the chair, so the report writer has said that the lease will have rent reviews, so it will change over those 30 years.
It's not going to work out by a lot, but.
No.
It's not exactly.
I know. It's
It's stuck way up in the blue eye.
I think it's ambiguous, the way it's written.
Yes, I hadn't thought of it that way, knowing what it is, but yeah, could be
You know,
interpreted
but
that way. Yeah. Right, any other discussion around that?
Is there, there's one objection about the length? The lease?
Yes, yes,
any-
and I was discussing that earlier with
Yeah.
the report writer. This is because it's because of the use of the land and the amount of improvements. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of improvements that have taken place on that site. This is actually replacing the proposed license with a long-term period ground lease. And if it were to be used for something else, I guess it's the use that we're looking at.
Down there, isn't it?
Yes,
Oh, it's
Fine.
over the top eye, it's got no
yeah,
sea views or anything like that.
Yeah.
so, Yeah. I think it's quite a long way.
This does support the planning service, so it's
yes.
on, but they haven't proposed an alternative.
I mean, this is ultimately a council decision. There is reserve land there and this is freehold land. The bit that falls in our ward area is freehold. So it's actually council land and it's because it's used as the one activity. There, it's come to our board, come back to us because we requested that it go through to consultation.
Obviously, what support any, so.
I mean, we can't future-proof from a board perspective, but I do hear you, and it was my concern. There was quite a lengthy submission in relation to future land settlements, querying that. If that were to happen, that would have to be taken into account at the time by a higher body. It's nothing that we would deal with.
I'm surprised to hear that it's something that Ottawa's land settlement. Ottawa's
See, I don't
doing
think
that.
this, I don't think this is the one that we're looking at.
Yeah, I
This is-
agree,
These submissions, that's why I kind of discounted that one,
because it's.
because it's the broad, there's 3 stations being looked at. And we're only really
Yeah,
looking
looking
at
at-
Whanganui, and that
Yeah.
one wasn't under our jurisdiction,
No,
Yeah.
which is why I wasn't
no.
fretting about it.
But it is something that is being raised with our leases, and I've just been informed this morning that we have a number of leases that will be coming due that people will be looking to roll over. And quite a few of those probably will be on reserves and will come to us. So it's understanding that process and where we fit into it. And I think it has to be, in my view, a case by case, because it depends on what that land is actually being utilised for. And it's the use of this land with fire and emergency and the community use. Bruce, I mean, you know the site, you were involved in this original discussion.
What, sort of?
What, do you have an issue with the term of the lease? Is
No,
this what
okay.
Amy was asking?
No.
It's quite a lengthy lease.
I mean, just getting the feeling of people out that way, yes, well supportive and, yeah. I mean, certain fractions out in Taupo Bay, it's shocker for that, but that's one issue that I've never ever heard of.
Yeah.
About, so.
But I mean, with rural fire, you need something close by.
Yes,
Exactly.
You regret it after you know.
exactly.
They won't invest in the rural fire service if they.
No.
Well, this is more about, in my view, it's more about the transferring of the ownership of the buildings and their improvements, which
Remains. No discussion on transferring the land, which means that it's still there, but any treaty settlements as and when.
I mean, when I read through this, I sort of was, no issues there as much as I could. I skimmed over it.
yeah, it's a really good point to bring up because there will be other leases that come to the table where we will be having those discussions as to whether we offer 5 by 5 by 5 or, you know, 5 3-year leases. That definitely, I'm sure, will
Oceania Board may choose to shorten their lease because
They may,
of this year.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they may,
You're probably not aware of where it is, but I mean, if you're going up Taupo Bay,
yeah.
yeah, on the left up on the hill, but it's on the rural side,
Mm.
nothing on the
Mm.
prime.
Right.
coastal views, so, yeah.
So moved by Bruce, seconded by Jane. All those in support? Against? Carried. Project funding report on page 83. Linda, we have somebody here, yes, to speak to
Interested in the,
rural travel fund.
yeah,
Yeah, we can move to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that first. On page 88, we're going to move to item 7.6. Page 88. Okay, so we have rural travel funding applications for 2022-23. The recommendation is that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board allocates rural travel funding in accordance with the recommendations received from Sports Northland as follows. I've got A to M. Would you like me to read them all out? You'll note that there are 2 summer codes in there and 2 winter for the same Bay of Islands College and Bay of Islands Swimming at the top. Before we discuss this, I'll just get a mover. Amy, seconder.
I'll see it.
Bruce, thank you. Catherine's here to discuss it, but you'll notice on page 89 there has been a change in the model, the funding model, which has, so Catherine, please, if you would like to just explain that.
So there's 2 things I will explain. One is why you've got a summer and a winter application in that. We usually run a summer round for rural travel funding at the tail end of the year, usually about September, October. That didn't happen last year, but we still had some of our regulars sent in the applications. So those 2 will be, I always get it wrong at retrospective, because the summer sports have already taken place, but you can still grant on that one. We have got it set up so that we will be taking summer applications in September of this year, so that's already up, so we know that that's happening. Now, usually we get about $25,000 from Sport New Zealand and $25,000 from Sport Northland. It is split between the 3 boards on a population basis and used that way. This year we did not get $25,000 from Sport Northland, and it wasn't until I was going through the funds and went, hey, I got a negative number in this account, that I rang them and they went, oh, we changed our funding model and Hayley's here. So she's our Sport Northland connector. She's the new Cheryl Smith.
Hi, Hayley.
so hey, hi, Cheryl. And they said, oh, did no one tell you? And I went, no. And sort of changed their funding model, and they went, I mean, was I supposed to apply for funding? They went, yeah, you probably should have, but we've got no money yet. What do you think? I was sort of panicking slightly. Sport New Zealand actually gave us another $10,000. They'll give us another $10,000 next year as well. They got an extra bit of funding from the government because they weren't distributing as much when we had the COVID lockdowns, I suspect. So we only had.
So there's now a difference of 15,000, is that right? It was 25 we lost and 10 we've gained from Sports New Zealand. Okay.
Yeah, we had a little bit of carryover as well.
Yeah.
So what we did is we just split it up.
Okay.
3. We've gone that way. We had enough to cover the applications we received. And we are having some very serious conversations with Sport Northland for the new financial year, because their financial year is the same as ours. So hopefully we will still get funding from Sport Northland next year. We've definitely got a 3-year contract with Sport New Zealand, so we know we've got another 35.
Excellent. Thanks for that explanation,
No
Catherine.
worries.
Hayley, welcome. Would you like to come forward? Do you want to say anything?
Oh, yeah, I'll just introduce myself to everyone.
We've got the dot on the floor, the famous. It's not American Idol. We've already said it's not American Idol today.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Hayley Paul. I'm from Kaikohe. I'm the new Mid-North Community Connector for Sport Northland. I've been in the job for about 2 months, so I think. Yeah, and So I've been reintroducing myself into Kaipo here these past couple of months and held a community hui. So Sport Northland just would like me to find out what I can get into, seek opportunities to help community to become more active around sports and play. So Kaipuhi is my focus area, so is Kawakawa and Moeroa. And so I'll be going into Moeroa and reintroducing myself there as well and holding a networking hui there too. And so part of my job is to help deliberate over the Rural Travel Fund as well. So Catherine sends the applications to me, we have a kōrero over it, and then we decide, how much we divvy up to each group. We do have a formula that we stick to or that we can apply, like a method, and then, that's how we divvy up the funds to our sports clubs, teams and individuals. Yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Thanks, Hayley.
Thank
And
you.
it's good that you so you live in Kaikohe?
I live in Hokianga.
I was going to say, it's good you're in Kaikohe because you have a good understanding of how we move around in this ward, but you still will have, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Which
So I'm from Kaikohe. I've lived up, I grew up there, played sport there, I'm from Kaikohe through and through, born and bred there.
Yeah.
Just been living in Hokianga for the last 10 years, working for Haura Hokianga as the community development officer there.
Lovely.
Yeah. Time
Any
for a
any
change and,
questions for Hayley over these?
So Hayley, these recommendations you kind of agree with? And
Yeah.
We just have to go again.
When we get them, we get all of the applications, and we also have Lucy Wallace, who's the community connector up in Tipiku Ward. And we get together, the three of us, and we go through going, these are the applications we've got, this is how much money we've got. And we go through them that way. We try and break it down, so we sit going, okay, well, we've got 500 kids here, we've got this amount of money, things like that, and that would work out to about this much per child. Try and do as much as we can.
Actually, one question regarding the eligible sports, and it says sports that have regular grassroots competitions such as handball, hockey, rugby league, softball, football. How do you really make that distinction?
So there's a different criteria that we apply as well. So Te Manoa came, I suppose, and then which allowed us to open it up to rec teams. Sorry, I only got one piece of paper. Allowed us to open up to people attending tournaments as well. So and so most of the clubs in that apply, we kind of know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
And because they've been applying for quite some time.
So where does inline skating fit in?
Pardon?
Where does inline skating fit
in? So they must have tournaments and stuff. So that
it's not a sport on a field, is it?
no, but it's on in the.
It's just discretionary.
Yeah.
People's not a field.
It's
Just an interesting sort of requirement that it was under that. What would that exclude, I suppose?
yeah.
There's
nothing that makes it
so quite open.
Yeah. Okay.
So the three dots mean
If
anything
it's like
else we think is
sailing or
suitable.
something, I don't know.
We do get periodically applications for those sort of things. Basically, it's like applying.
We live streaming.
No wonder that was
Yes, that's why I took it out of the darkness.
And that's basically the ... means that you can use your discretion to allocate it to any appropriate fits within.
Yeah, it's about getting children participating in active sport.
But that's an interesting question from you, Amy. With the growth of water sports, what about sailing?
Yeah,
You know,
but I think it's a good idea to stick to
We do get a lot
like
of
the ones
applications.
that are
like
not
one
going to
for Butler and all
be
those
linked kind of as well.
Oh, that's because it's to get tamariki and kids to the sport as well, because swimming is one, and they're having to come to Kirikiri because Bay of Islands is still getting fixed. So they've got people travelling from Taipa to go to swimming club over in Kawakawa. So
and
that's
Russell
that
getting
kind of
kids to
thing.
netball and
Yeah.
Kirikiri was always an issue. Or Kaikawa.
Yeah.
So really, the overall intention, get kids into active sport.
That's the one.
If it hits that mark,
Yeah.
halfway.
Yeah. It's all about
So what we've
encouraging
seen is a lot of kids, a lot of groups have applied for more than they can afford.
Yeah.
For the funding. We make sure that we explain it.
They are aware.
They know.
And they very much.
Everyone always tries to get more than.
Oh,
Yeah. For everything.
Yeah. We'll give you what we can. Yeah.
We're not being stingy.
No, not at all.
And some are better at filling out forms than others, you know, it's, we find with a lot of sports groups, you know, they're doers, they're not good on the administrative side and.
Just sports groups that are.
Yes.
And Chair, I have a thought. Fine. But I think we run the risk of falling into that's the group we funded last year and we just keep doing the same group. I look at Kerry High School and they fund rugby and whatever, but they have a sailing team. Sailing team's very good at raising money in other places, so we have a sailing thing up at Lake Manawa. That is kids travel to get to there, and they don't apply because they know that they don't fall into the norm or whatever. So I just put that out there that maybe there are some other sports or other activities.
And it's a good point, they could apply, like you said, everybody that applied is getting something. Right?
Yes.
Yes, so they could.
They could, and you know.
Well,
We do encourage that, we don't say just apply. I mean, the question is not.
Yeah.
But we as people that are looking after this funding, we can sometimes just fall into the same routine of looking. And that's, I think also for future things, the number of children in these groups that are being funded, I think would help me. I don't really need all of this. Probably should read it. I don't. There's a lot of stuff in there that I don't need. But if I could just have some feel for the number of children that were funding any particular.
Yeah, it's all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Just as a half a page.
Be a financial.
Summaries. And then summary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just too much.
Yeah, thanks, Lane. Kim, you wanted to comment?
Through the chair, I was going to say it's very similar to the country music lady who was here this morning who said, well, you've previously funded me for the bus, so I applied for the bus. And that's what I'll continue doing until you kind of stop funding them, her, etc. They will just continue to apply for the same old.
I can show you a quick sample. These are some numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, these are. Is it the one? No, the next.
It's the breakdown, wasn't it?
Yes, that's the right one. Yes, they need to have a participant that they're applying.
Yeah. So basically each child.
Keep waking up.
It's the camera, it's not us, we don't mind. It's the camera, it's the people watching live.
There of male and female lanes because that's a requirement on board.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you don't have to mail, that's my point.
Yeah.
Participants in everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's important to focus on the kids that have to come to Kirikiri for netball and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
getting those people from far away.
The priority is given children and young people in higher deprivation communities, girls and young women, 5 to 18 lane, and disabled children and young people. So we don't value our males. Interesting, that criteria has changed.
They were more heavily represented in the sports and applications previously, so they want to make sure that there's a bit more
balance. Yeah. Excellent. Any more questions for Helen? Thank you for patiently waiting and coming along. Nice to meet you. Always good to put a face to the people that do the hard work behind the scenes and compiling these, and Catherine, because it is a big job. It's a very big job actually. And we used to sit in the good old days and have all day workshops arguing over debating, shall I say, and trying to find that balance. So I love that you have a formula.
Takes us about 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big, yeah.
Oh, I've been doing it for years.
Yes, he's been doing it for longer than I have.
Yeah. And it is much appreciated because it is a lot of work for the board to do. And I think probably your formula is a very fair outcome. And it saves us an awful lot of, your community gets more than my community. This is about the kids, irrespective of where they come from. I know the deprivation index is one of the criteria, but at the end of the day, you know, you're dividing it amongst the kids. So the clubs with half a dozen are getting the same as the clubs with 200 kids. Each child is getting the same, which I think it's really important for us to understand that there is that equity. So
It's how can we make it as fair as possible?
I don't know if I
Yes.
agree, to be honest.
Yeah,
don't?
it is difficult, but
I think it's better to give the lower, you know, the higher need to make it more equal.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
but that's the criteria is for,
Yeah.
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 We're talking numbers of kids that it's done on per head of child, isn't it, rather than.
that's the initial one, and then we see, well, if we got anything left over, can we give it? more?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. it should
Mm.
make
And
it-
there will be ones where we sit there going, okay, we'll start with these ones and work our way down. So there are some that we know are more financial
Yeah.
than others. And so we will assess the answers
Yeah.
and say, we've still got the money,
Yeah.
we can get things.
Yeah.
So this expertise is really helpful. We would struggle.
Okay.
I wonder if, just as a comment to that. Kirikiri had always been seen as well-to-do as opposed to, say, other places. What I think is happening in Kirikiri, that in some schools, there are now sections of that school population that are very deprived. And I'm not thinking that I know how you look at that. Not the same as it was maybe.
The bonus of having both Hayley and Leslie is that they are very involved with the schools and the community groups now. So they know the people that are applying, they know, and we're going out and when we hear about other groups, we're going, hey guys, you need to be applying for this as well. We want your applications and we will help you put your application together. So we're not just going, here's a form, fill it out. Talk to us about this.
I know Leslie Walls from when I was a kid in the school up in Whangaroa. And then she used to be pretty heavily involved back then, so.
Yes,
it's all-
it still is.
Yeah.
Hugely.
And it's not easy. We know that there will always be some disagreement with how things are done. And it's just trying to find an equitable or as equitable as possible way of sharing.
I think over the years it's been proven to us that pretty good job's done. Anyway, thank you very much, Hayley and Catherine. So moving on, that was moved by Amy, seconded by Bruce. All those in support of A to M sports funding totaling to $20,695.
Everyone.
Against?
Oh.
No? Okay, carried. Just do the project funding report and break for lunch. So page 83. Sorry, we're just going back one.
Should we just about this bit, should we just make it not printed next time? Like, I didn't realise a lot of the work's already done for us and I appreciate it, but I feel bad that I got that printed. Yeah.
Can do. I'm pretty sure the information that we require, particularly in the Rural Travel Fund, is you can find it online.
Yeah,
It-
and the application is good, but we don't need to.
So we don't need to print those for
Yeah.
summer and winter
Yeah.
allocations. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Thanks,
Does
Amy.
everyone have
Yeah, I think
to get a,
That
if
There's a
everyone
more
is-
summarised version would be probably handier.
That's what we use when we're doing.
It's just the summarised version.
Yeah.
And a bit of faith in the fact that we know that
We
you
trust
guys will
you.
bring
Yeah.
it
That
up,
is
right?
so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. You noted that, Kat. Thank you. Right, back to item 7.5. I will move that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board note the project report received from Bert Jam 2023. Do I have a seconder? Bruce? Any discussion around this report?
Great success and sadly has emergency meetings.
Less about the report, more about the event.
Yeah.
I've heard a number of great comments about it.
Yeah.
It's good that people are still buzzing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were giving it out That's the credit. It's going on.
Yeah.
So that's very great.
Well worth their those meetings.
I agree.
I'd just like to point out to you that this report has been duplicated on page 137 to 139, so we will ignore that when we get to it. Okay, I moved, Bruce second. Those in favour? Against? Carried. That we will break for lunch. And we will be, it's 10 past. 10 minutes, do you want 20 minutes or half an hour? Half an hour. We'll see you back at 20 to 1. Welcome back, everyone. To those of you watching in with us today, we're up to item 7.7, funding applications for March. We'll take these one by one. First recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves a sum of $2,265 plus GST if applicable, be paid from the board's community fund account to Bald Angels Charitable Trust for the cost of the Angel Wings project to meet the following community outcomes. Communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable, proud, vibrant communities. Do I have a mover? Lane, thank you. Seconder, Bruce. Any discussion? Lane as mover, would you like to speak first to us?
I will. And I'm Catherine, I just made a comment. They received some money for us for a project.
They have.
They have, which they didn't spend all of it.
No, but that will be coming to the next meeting because there's.
Okay. So we're going to treat that as a separate.
As separate.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. That's fine.
Thanks for clarifying that, Catherine. Any other questions around this? You all know where it's going?
Back at top.
Very beautiful. Beautifully mounted on the toilets.
Yeah, facing inwards to the Kerikeri domain or into the playground area. Sure that's covered in that report. They have the kids make up the little wings, which they then screen print and take away and have them lost in metal. Like this big set of wings, a little wings.
It's all explained in the addition.
I've never had something.
Yeah. The my only query really was around, I see the material was graffiti, purpose material, graffiti and damage resistance. My query was really around maintenance and the lifespan of it, but we don't have Tracy to answer that.
Do you think apology is the way should become in?
You didn't have to speak to it. It wasn't over $3,000.
She was there.
Yes, she was. Yeah. So, no, we accept that she didn't have to come and speak to it due to the amount in the application. I just think with the type of project, and it's going to be quite high profile, it may have been beneficial for her to be here to speak to it in our public forum. However, Lane's been involved in the project and is pretty.
We did come to the board at one point that we agreed with the concept of what they were going to do. And I may have slowed the process a little bit. And I apologise for that, Madam Chair, is that they had received other monies from us which had not been spent and they wanted to roll it over. And I suggested that it should be two separate activities, that they do that and then they reapply. So I probably slowed the process down a bit.
They weren't also too sure how much money they had left over necessarily. So I was like, well, you get your project report.
Yeah.
So by spending there was a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
I had questions on that, given that there's about 5,600 still left.
Yeah.
Unspent. This looked like a Rainbow Rangatahi project. But I thought was really.
Well, it's a totally different location, so it's a separate application altogether. And you know, we're treating them as two, yeah. So we'll get a project report in due course at our next meeting. And
that they want to see if they can use that for another.
And that money
will treat
that money, yeah, was to set up a drop-in centre. So we'll get a report back on that and treat that. But this is actually on the Kirikiri domain, so it's totally different. Okay. So the only query I have was doing projects like this, and I'd like us all to be mindful of it moving forward when we do any projects or fund projects that are on reserves and council land, is that we actually consider ongoing maintenance and succession. We have people come and do amazing things in our community, but with time, they move on or pass on, and we don't actually have succession programs and maintenance programs. So I think we need to be mindful of the ongoing cost to the ratepayer, particularly when we do the nice to haves, and it's not even just the nice to haves, our walkways, we have amazing people in our community that develop them, but to have maintenance and succession programs will be, I think, very beneficial moving forward from a resident ratepayer perspective as representatives. Yeah.
Well, certainly, I know that there are walkways which have been put in, funded by the community board or council, on the proviso that the community group maintains it, council.
Yeah,
maintain it.
which is fine, but those groups die out is what I'm saying. So there needs to be succession and maintenance. And I'm looking at these wings thinking how amazing they're going to be, but I don't know for how long it's going to look amazing. So just bearing that in mind. No more discussion, questions? No, we'll put it to the vote then. Moved by Lane, seconded by Bruce. All those in support? Against? Carried. Next one, the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves the sum of $5,000 to be paid from the board's community fund account to Bay of Islands Country Music Festival for the costs of the shuttle bus and promotion. Do I have a mover? Bruce? Seconder? Thank you. Do you want to speak to it, Bruce?
Oh,
Tyler said.
we've been there for so many years, haven't we?
Yes.
And it is doing good service. I mean, it doesn't come up to my area and that sort of thing, but I've watched it all. Yeah. So I think it's responsible. I mean, I can see the problems she's got this year with the issues with access. Yeah, so tickets are going to be down. And you know that Shirley put so much into this herself. She said she'd probably come out of her own pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
It has in the past when there's been a shortfall. So
Yes, that's right. So.
unfortunately.
Even though it's gone on year after year after year. But I thought it's been succeeding.
Tyler, a seconder, did you want to comment?
I mean, I support the application, but I also sort of with the note that maybe in the future, maybe she's quite start looking at potentially like a bush.
I said that for years.
Oh, yeah.
It's moving, mate.
This is the last time, Shirley.
She says, I'll just keep applying till you say no, and it's fine. Yeah.
It's harder and harder. Yeah. They did ask for 8,329 and recommendations 5.
And she said she just needs 3,000. She did herself a disservice by saying, I only want $3,000 for the bus.
No, that's the bus.
Yeah, but she said, I just
I
got
think
300.
what she's meaning is Clark's give her a discounted rate for that.
Yes.
And the bus is actually a lot more than that. So she's only wanting three, one or something for the
The
bus.
way she said it.
Yeah.
I'll be looking for $3,000.
Yes, well, she might be struggling to pay her advertising costs. But okay, any more comments on that one? Put it to the vote. Moved, Bruce. Yes.
Sorry.
No.
Just thinking about what we've got left.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 2 more meetings after this. Then we've got.
20K per
Yeah.
meeting, I worked out.
So
We do actually have enough. Otherwise, I think, if we did it, I'd be like.
8th of June, 8th of June.
When you could go back to service,
Yeah.
I could still. That on its own. So
So that's a separate fund, isn't it? Yeah.
We have $54,780 with May and June left.
Yeah. This is only. 12.
Assuming we fund
And
everything. Yes.
Fund everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So the amount requested includes the placemaking request.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, as I say, I figured we had about 20K per meeting.
Yeah.
For stuff excluding the place.
Yeah.
If we funded everything.
But we don't actually look at it like that. And it's interesting you should bring this up, and I'll just digress for a second because there has been years where we could have run out of money with 3 or 4 months to go. And I sometimes wonder, had we done that, would we be out of a role in our community, or would we be given more funding in our community? And by cutting funding, sometimes events and activities actually struggle to succeed. And part of our responsibility is to ensure that things succeed if we're going to fund them. So it's a really difficult one to weigh up. yes, there's been years when we've had way more demand on money than we have had money. And sometimes, you know, we've always been fearful of spending it and doing, we've got X amount of months, let's divide what we divvy up, instead of spending the money, backing events that are likely to succeed, particularly inaugural events, you know, things that haven't happened before.
I guess I'm
And-
saying it because it's just so that if we get, you know, wildly out, probably shouldn't fund everything. I just think it's just another little.
Something to workshop, Jane, and we've worked over the years, previous boards have workshopped it, and it's a really difficult one because sometimes you need to put a substantial amount of money towards something to make it succeed. Particularly if you know it's a big ticket item or it's an inaugural event, and once they're off the ground, you might say this is your seed funding.
Yeah.
It's pretty big, but go out there and turn it into something else. Go for external funding. And some groups are, and towns and organisations are really, really good at that. And I think that's what we've got to be proud of with our funding, is that the people we give it to do go out there and generally turn it into more. Some of these events are struggling, and it's just a sign of the times. They've had very good days, but since pre-COVID, they've really struggled to get back up and running. So really valid point that looking at our balance is to, you know, just ask you to.
And how many times we've used the funding.
Yes, nothing in the policy to stop them applying over and over. Okay.
If we have in the past, Madam Chair, notified some organisations that we wouldn't fund them again, but this was a one-off because of that particular situation. And then we put them on notice, done by them.
And they still come back.
Say no.
What part of no you hear? So anyway,
Well, but the other thing is we don't want to end up with a lot of money sitting there. Not you. So, you know,
there's no carryover. There is no carryover.
Yeah, right.
So we fund
Yeah,
things
we
that
don't spend
got.
all, we're in danger of the council going, hey, wait a minute. they didn't
You
spend
don't need it.
Yeah.
Communities don't need it. I mean,
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So, you know, we don't want to be sitting there.
okay, back to business. Move Bruce, seconded Tyler, $5,000 to the Bay of Islands Music Festival. Always in support, raise your hands. Against, carried. Moving on, that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves a sum of $3,992 plus GST if applicable, be paid from the board's community fund account to Maraki Paihia for the costs of marquee hire for Matariki Puanga 2023 to meet the following outcomes: communities that are safe, healthy, protected, safe, connected and sustainable, proud, vibrant communities. Do I have a mover? Jane, seconded Lane.
Yes. And I asked if she had any other costs. So all of the trading and all of that, all the tutors that are coming in have been paid out in other ones. So she's going, no, this is the last bit that I've got. And I don't think she was clear in her mind. Yeah. Absolutely going, no, what you're saying is fine.
Yeah.
So she has paid a lot of other stuff, but it's already dealt with.
Yes.
This is the last thing that she needs the funding for.
I assume that you couldn't run something to the extent she does with just a
Marquee.
marquee as a sound system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you understand that? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And then also,
Budget.
and the voluntary and kind type.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you only have the budget, instead of the charter scale.
I just wanted to say that. She didn't know.
Well done for asking.
Yeah.
I think she was trying to.
As long as we're not
like, oh, I was going
Yeah.
to this, so it's a big thing. It's like, no, it's all you're.
50%, yeah. Yeah, whereas if she had said that in the meeting, then it makes it more clear that we're able to kind of, we're not going against.
So I was looking at the budget and I looked at the full budget. So I was looking at all the detail and I could see that this was a very small part of the quest for the event to go ahead.
Yes.
So it's just a very small component of what is quite a significant activity with a whole bunch of things going on. And she's just asking for 10, but the budget says it all. I can't remember what page it's on, but it's
This is part of a larger festival. Oh, that was, the inaugural one was last year and the weather wasn't that great. But it was still a reasonable success. And, they're looking that, when I say they, the combined communities are looking to grow it and to make Waitangi the number one place of destination for Matariki, for people wanting to have holiday breaks. So,
Good work she already does, right?
yeah, she does amazing stuff.
Here we go.
But
If we look at
this is supportive of the Russell community,
59.
Kawakoa. It's actually a much bigger picture, but this is just for on the Paihia Village Green. So it's come to us, it's our reserve to erect the marquee and sound system, isn't it?
yes, page 65 of the. You've got a total budget of 106,000.
And the 2,000 she was referring to from workshops didn't come from the community board, it's come from
Creative communities, yes.
Slightly. So, yeah, I wanted to support her because she's put an awful lot of effort into building this event, and she's got a very small ask from us, which will be really important for the success of the event. And I think she's doing great work. It is really community focused. It's really about resilience and sustainability. I'd like to come take this.
Have any of you been to the hub, just digressing in Kings Road? Yeah, great little setup. I mean, you will have seen on social media. She does a lot of posts, and I know kids that have been there and go there. There's a few children that go there that actually would normally be homeschooled and or just hanging and don't, you know, so it's kind of, I guess, acts as a neighbourhood drop-in centre as well. And I have to say, you know, with the changes in the neighbourhood and in the town over the last 2 or 3 years, it's certainly been a fabulous service. And you see the kids in groups at the beach and around, you know, learning all about the ecosystems. Also, that she does an awful lot with them, but that's an aside to what she's proposing to do.
But it is part of it, it feeds in.
Yes.
So,
Well, the 14, yeah, what did you say? The 14 workshops that they have had, they'll be showing, you know, they're going to run 14 workshops, and the last 20 weeks worth of workshops, they will be showing some of the work and using that in the workshops for Matariki. They'll be feeding into that.
it's a little bit of positivity in an area of town that's really suffered badly in the last. Finally got this spot where.
The old Tipsy Oyster.
Yeah. Oh.
Painted out, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Moved, Jane, seconded Lane. Any further discussion? I'll put that to the vote for $3,992. All those in support? Against? Carried. Next we have our kitty. The Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves a sum of $22,967 plus GST if applicable, be paid from the board's placemaking account to our kitty for the costs of a kitty CBD master plan. I'm not sure whether that should be kitty Waipapa CBD master plans, but yes. Kitty slash.
Request from an initial application.
We just do.
They put in the initial application as
We received it.
Yes, so it came in January and we went astray.
And they highlighted.
We just.
Yep, I've added it.
Yeah, kitty Waipapa CBD master plans, plural. Okay, I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Kyla? That takes the balance of our placemaking funds. Any discussion around that?
These all our placemaking funds or the resolution?
Well, both really. They did ask for $50,000 and they can only have 22,967.
I do emphasise the point, Madam Chair, that this is a big project, which I think is, I'd speak totally in favour of doing it. It has to be done and should have been done probably 10 years ago. But we are then really making a commitment to participate in this process in the next years. I'm not trying to preempt another application, but I would be out from it.
Well, I think she's much second.
Yes.
And because they're starting a long journey, well, expensive journey. Sorry. Thank you.
No, I think it's a very valid point. This is something that if we're going to agree to commit to this, that we are then on board for the journey. And as community representatives, it's quite a serious step to get involved in developing something like this. It's not easy. A lot of work's gone into it, and it's going to be costly to see it through. Catherine, you want to comment?
Decide if you don't want to get for 50, you could make it a balance financial year if that's what you choose to do.
Sorry, she just heard me on that now.
Yes. Thank you. They have signalled that they will be back to us in July when we get and if we get a new round of placemaking fund. I think it's really important that they submit to that. So we can't commit funds into next year till we know if the annual plan is successful, that we're going to actually have that. In my thinking, that we're going to have that funding under placemaking. They could come for community grant fund up to 20,000 or an out of policy decision for more. But at this stage, I'm quite comfortable to move on the 22,967, and they have signalled that they will be back to us.
Madam Chair, do we have any sense of whether the council whose job this actually is going to be everything, because it's quite disappointing that the community board is using the funds for other, for all of our communities to do what is effectively a job that should be done by council.
Sorry.
So again, if the council's not going to buy into it as well, we're not going to be able to fund the $250,000 of this project out of any budget funds.
I hear you. All I can say is that council's looking at, they're having to work on the spatial planning, which is the much bigger picture. And as you know, they're going through the district plan at the moment. The spatial planning for Kirikiri Waipapa, for the area, the entire area, which also goes out and includes all that Peninsula North and way outside the boundaries that will be set for the CBD master plans. We're looking in tune of, I think, around 320,000 come just for the spatial planning. So when you say, are they contributing, they have to work on the higher order documents, and the ratepayer money is going into those. And if we can start working on the actual community documents, then that will give them some leverage for other funding, the external funding, once they've got the master plan in place.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just I'm worried that it's too.
Kim, do you want to comment on that process?
Just to say that if you were to look at Kaitaya's town, well, yes, that was funded by the community board. Council gets involved, council then likes to drive things and to take things over. If it's coming from community and businesses, then other funding agencies kind of want to play into that as well. So yes, well, true. Financially, we could ideally go, well, here's the money, off you go, our kitty, go ahead and do it. That's not always in council.
Yeah, and I
They,
think
they have access, they have indications from other sources that they will get some funding.
They're very good at getting funding.
They are.
I'm just concerned they won't have it urgently needs doing, and it needs doing yesterday. And we're going to give them like 10%.
Well, it still takes time, Jane, doesn't it? I mean, we put money, our full budget last year towards Russell, and we've taken a baby step in that direction. That's all, and it's been probably nearly a year later. So I think, Kim makes a very, very valid point there, is that they have the community groups have and incorporated societies and charitable trusts have the ability to apply for external funding and can be quite successful. And I've seen the likes of Focus Paihia turn small amounts into huge amounts. And council does not have the same ability and drive to do that.
It's just worrying. It's not enough to.
But we take that first step of confidence in the work done to date, all the accompanying information, the people at the helm, they've not given up, and believe you me, I know there's people there that have just wanted to throw the towel in because it's just all too hard to even work with council or get people in the room together. So we have to start the beginning of that journey with them as community representatives, and it's as much our following and buy-in and support that they will be looking to. But I have total confidence in the, don't forget.
A good track record.
So
They do.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll take.
sorry, once it's in
Amy.
the, if we get it in the district plan. And
It will go into,
strategic
so
plan,
it will go into our strategic
then
plan
get
first.
funding.
It can do through the long-term plan, yep, and the annual plan. So that to have the plan in place first, and adopt it in our strategic plan, get it adopted by council. Into that, we've got the LTP coming up next year, get it into that, and that will be more avenues for them to apply for funding through the annual plan process. But if it's not in there, if it's not done and it's not in there.
I just think that it's unlikely we come across anything that isn't more deserving of this funding in regards to it needs to be done ASAP and it needed to be done a long time ago. If you like, I'm from Kaitaia, so I've seen from a little bit of a distance what a difference that that master plan has made up in that town and Awanui as well. You know, we know that they've got a proven track record of delivering and doing really positive things for this community. And they're also masters of getting funding and just making things happen. So I just think that for us to even at least start with a vote of confidence by giving this money is just the right thing to do.
And through the chair, once someone has given money and a significant amount of money in 20,000 bids, it's much, much easier for other funders to go, so you've got the support, so yes, we can do this.
Sure.
It's the first one's always the hardest to get answered.
And as the chair said previously, council will end up picking up costs later on. So whatever was known from the place, the council's going to have to maintain and monitor and etc. So obviously may not be putting funds towards the plan itself. It will at a later stage have to start putting funding, but just not as direct as like, okay, here's some funding strategy. We'll do that.
I guess the only other consideration as well is they said requested a couple of nominations, and obviously, do we need to make that decision now as well if we accept the funding or?
No, we can, no,
They'll make that application to us.
Yeah. we can make that decision amongst ourselves and put it to them. They've already indicated that a white paper and a kitty.
Got a few eyes at the moment.
Will be. So to date, I have been sitting in both virtually and in person on a number of working party group meetings with some of those critical partners and council staff. And although as chair, it's good to be informed, I did express that I was quite happy to step down from that working party should there be a desire from the working party group to actually work more closely with the particular subdivision representatives. I think there's more advantages in that. But as I say, I'm happy to stay on board if we can't get the nominations. You know, because there will be probably a number of meetings and quite a bit of work moving forward. So we can decide that amongst ourselves. Yeah. Okay. We can have that discussion after the meeting anyway. Any further questions, Jane? Okay. So if everybody's clear what they are supporting here, I will put this recommendation to the vote with the amendment that for the cost towards a Kirikiri/Waipepa CBD master plans. Moved myself, seconded by Tyler. All in support, raise your hands. Against, carried. Thank you. Next application that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board approves a sum of $4,000 plus GST if applicable be paid to the board's community fund account to R. Tucker Thompson Sailing Training Trust for the costs of youth development voyages for the Bay of Islands students. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Chris. Jane. Discussion?
Just throw something.
Yes.
She did indicate she will be coming back year on year. the board could make the decision to fund the 3 years of the training if they so choose, rather than having to come back and do. I know that the other boards will disagree.
Thanks for that, Catherine. I prefer not to do that.
No, that's fine. I'm just
because-
suggesting that you can.
Thank you. Yes, we can. I prefer not to do that because we may end up losing funding, crossing boards. It gets complicated. I have seen.
Only for the 3 years of training.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Question, Madam Chair. We're actually funding 2 participants, aren't we?
yes.
The way that's worded, it's sort of worded like with funding the trust itself. And
The voyages.
if you can read that, I mean, and I'm quite happy to fund it on either basis, but it seems to me we are really sending 2 of our youth of our community.
In parenthesis here, it has got for Bay of Islands-Whangaroa ward students. So I think that I'm happy that covers it.
Although I will be abstaining from this, they also noted that it's statutes, which might be why actually. I'm just, I'll be abstaining from this one.
Give it to Sports Northwood too, but.
Well.
They seem like they've got a really good process.
Well, I think they do. I'm quite happy with just the way it reads. And, you know, I could well see the Tucker Thompson Trust coming to us for money for something else. But this specifically is 2 participants. I'm explaining that very well.
Yeah, no, you are. You are.
It's not as if we're putting the funds in the students' bank accounts.
I'm not buying rope and sails. It's 2 activities.
No, I get you. Catherine, Te Haku we met yesterday.
The
Tuesday.
didn't get them in time for me to.
So we're the first? So we're the first? Okay. And it is in our ward. So dare I say no more? Moved Bruce, seconded Lane. I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in support? Against? Thank you. Carried. And Jane abstained. You want that noted, Jane?
Yep.
Thank you. Now, the final application we have, you will note that this did not end up in the body of the agenda, but in our additional information. So I'm going to move to add to this so that it gets included. So I'm going to read this recommendation that approves the sum of $720 plus GST if applicable be paid from the board's community fund account to Bay of Islands Young Farmers Club for costs of marquee and equipment hire for the Northern Young Farmers Regional Final Evening Show to meet the following community outcomes. Communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable, proud, vibrant communities. I'm going to add subject to the funding application being appended to the agenda online. Do I have a mover? Amy, is that you, Lane, seconding? Kim.
Is it okay? So we can't change the agenda online, so we're not out with publications, but we can add the application as a table document to the minutes. As they have not gone.
Okay.
We're adding it onto the agenda as an appended document.
As a table.
Yeah.
We got it in our detail.
Yeah. You happy with that, Kim?
Yeah, it's,
okay.
You can't change the agenda and re-upload it.
It's appended.
No, and I didn't want to let this lie on the table because the event is going to be held on the 29th of April at the Waimate North Showground. So
Okay.
yes, so I didn't. Do you want a minute to look at the additional information, Bruce?
I believe you. Well, they had it in the domain last time. And
yes,
it's really great.
Yes.
I came along and watched it and yeah. Good.
Going to go to the application. I was just going to ask Catherine, you're here. Your recommendation was for 620.
Yeah.
But we have 720. Sorry, typo. The formal recommendation is 720, but the staff recommendation was 620. I'm assuming that it was the 500 for the venue hire and 120 for the equipment hire, looking at the additional information.
Yeah,
Can you
about
just-
600 for the marquee and the equipment hire.
So 500 plus 120. So that's where you got the 620 from. And so
Are we paying 50% of that?
my second question was the 720 was under the 50%. Was there a reason why we couldn't give them the 720 or 50% of the full amount?
Yes.
At the moment, we have 720 on the table.
Is that the full amount?
No, the full amount they requested
Was
1,500.
15.
No, but we're not funding food. No, we're not funding food. So full amount is what they'll say.
No.
Yes, plus 100.
Yeah.
So they've got $500 for the.
For the marquee and 120.
Yeah, so we're funding 100% what they've asked for.
No.
They're entitled to apply, but they're not entitled to apply.
Sorry?
They're not entitled to apply for food.
Sometimes we do. We don't normally.
There's nothing in the
Discretionary?
policy that actually,
Okay, I misunderstood what you said because you said that.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, usually none of the boards will fund food. It's up to the boards if they do or not. But we usually take this straight.
It's something it's just a it's just something that the board decided, the previous boards decided, we won't fund, you know. In fact, we have lots of discussions around administrative costs and things as well. But we always sort of felt that you know, drink and food were something. But in saying that, we have funded things. In fact, we specifically fund water at some events and things. So
It's a good thing. But it's paid for a function.
this is something that is rotated around New Zealand. Or the far north, is that Northland, sorry? Or just Northland?
That's the regional one up here.
I just don't understand why we.
Well, there's, in the funding application, if you have a look, there's actually, they invite students. So when they invite people to participate in this, you don't actually have to be off a farm and know about farming. It's, do you want to speak to it, Kim? It's actually a lot more.
You can get accountants and what have you.
And
standing-
kids, they go to
Yeah.
schools and it's, the thing is actually,
Students are encouraged to compete in team game
Mm.
competitions, even if they've not had anything to do with farming before. As a competition introduces them to the farming sector.
yeah.
But we're not funding the event, we're funding the dinner or the
Construction.
yeah.
We-
If you think of it as one big event, so I'm kind of with you, it'd be like
Yeah.
funding an art
Yes.
competition.
Yeah.
However, it is,
It is,
while you're not funding the fences for the day, for the dogs, for the farmers,
Mhm.
for their activities, it is a whole activity. So
And the venue hire is for the whole weekend, for
Yeah.
the whole venue for everything.
it's not just a dinner, it's
Yeah.
following like the competitions that they've had, the events that they've had, the trials that they've had to find the young farmer or and so not
And
just the
it's
dinner.
a 2-day event and it's right on the north, which is actually just south of Auckland.
yeah, I thought it was a bigger area.
Yeah.
And sorry, through the chair as well, just to speak about the group in general, they do a lot of really good things. You know, they just recently had a big fundraising dinner where they raised money for cyclone relief down in Hawke's Bay. There was a large drivers behind the P&I show that's at Waimata North. You know, they're very involved. They're a small group, but I think they do a lot of good for the farming community particularly.
They are a small group, yeah.
Okay, get a bit more of a sense of
Yeah.
what it's about is. All I could see was a spit roast. I actually know the girl that's put the application.
Oh, I thought you might have been worrying about where the sheep for the trials ended up or something. That was the first quote that I saw too, the spit roast, yeah.
One of the days
Okay.
of the booze cruises, are they? For-
I guess I
And
would have
farmers.
been comfortable if they'd put something in that was the cost of running the 2 day
Yeah, I
events.
agree.
I could see that much more in sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is spit roast.
And I suppose again, we're assuming that you know a little bit about this when this has
no
come
idea.
to us over past years.
Yeah, but they
And,
haven't though, have they? It's the first time.
Well, who do we not? No, we found sheep trials before. Was it a different?
As I said, when it was on at the main.
Oh, the sheep dogs.
Oh, that's it.
I'm getting confused now. Watch the space, we may get another application. Okay, so we've got $720 in the recommendation. Any further discussion around this? Any proposed amendments? If not, I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in support, raise your hands. Against, so that's carried for $720. Thank you very much. So that's all our funding applications by the look of it. Done, so we move on to information reports, 8.1 on page 140. Trees, we should love trees.
I'm gonna
You got the
email
right
this
one.
report to the whole community so that they can speak. They
8.1 Long Beach Road, Moreton Bay Fig Tree Report Update that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board received the law report, gosh, I'm getting tongue-tied, report Long Beach Road, Moreton Bay Fig Tree Report Update. Moved by Jane. Seconded by, thank you, Tyler. Any discussion around this? We just to receive the report.
Very interesting reading.
Yeah.
It's a very good report. I love the red dots on all the branches of the trees showing specifically what they were going to do and where.
And even the anecdotal story of the people beneath them saying that their
The
parents
living
got married under
Yeah.
the tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can't protect.
Discuss how we bring it to the community.
I'm thinking of maybe
Jane.
emailing the reports to the community. Saying, this is what we were presented with as our agenda, because they won't go and click on the agenda, they've been told that it's there, but they won't. But actually taking it out as so that they can read it.
See what's the work that goes in.
It's very
into
clear
it.
that the council has been thoughtful of the community in not taking the arborist recommendation. The arborist was quite firm that it probably should be cut down, but it could be prolonged with careful monitoring and pruning. So I think it shows that the council is really thinking the community's interest in art. And for that reason, I'm going to email it to.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's really important that we do because a lot of work goes into these reports and we are quite demanding of council to provide these reports to us when work is done on the trees. And I think what people see, like Jane says, they're out having their beach walk, they see someone hacking at a tree, they don't realise that it's been through a formal process to get to where it's at. So we'll leave that with you to do.
But yeah, it's a very good.
You've got two of them to deal with today. Okay, moved by Jane, seconded by Tyler. All those in support of receiving this report? Against? Carried.
I assume they go fruit. The word fig, is it a fig tree?
Moreton Bay fig.
Yeah, what does it do?
Provides shade.
Get married under it.
Right, backdrop to take a photo.
It's a nice backdrop for a
Probably
photo.
had the name came from.
Right, moving on to item 8.2, the Strand Moreton Bay Fig Tree Report Update. At the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board received the report, Strand Moreton Bay Fig Tree Report Update, moved by Jane, seconded by Lane. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would also like to just further add, I was doing the article in the Russell Lights, thought I would choose the police station as the topic and such a punishment. And I read in the article that the police, that the Customs House, the first owner of the Customs House, planted the Moreton Bay Fig bin in 1873. And the fig was actually in the policeman's grounds. So it's subsequently that. Now on this council land, but previously it would have been just saying.
Was it shifted, do you think? Or
It was a fence. Somebody somewhere along the line thought, oh, we'll get the council to pay for this.
Interesting.
Genius.
It's a little bit of history on it. I didn't know. There you
Thought
go.
I'd share that.
Stop learning. Thank you, Jane.
From the news article, Madam Chair, that I saw, it doesn't look like the police are doing a great job of it.
No,
No, there was not.
no, we won't open that can. Okay, so move Jane, seconded Lane. All those in support of receiving this report? Against? Carried. Thank you. And Jane, you're going to circulate that as well, your community. Right, item 8.3, I'll move the recommendation that the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board receive the report entitled Statement of the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board Community Fund Account as at 28th of February 2023. Do I have a seconder? Bruce. Okay. So you'll note here that the Catherine circulated a spreadsheet, which I forwarded to you, which had the current up-to-date balances, which were, as previously discussed, $64,780 in our community grant fund and $22,967, which we've done a good job of spending a good chunk of that today, just so you are all up to date with what those figures are. Thank you for that, Catherine. It was really good having that breakdown. And
I can follow that.
yeah, so can I.
And it's, I said, no, those are all the resolutions, it's not looking for anything else.
So we will look a bit more closely at one or two funds that have not been uplifted in the next couple of months. But in the meantime, I'm happy with the work that Catherine's done on that. That's great. Explaining that to us. So
What I'll do is I'll put that at front of the information report each month. So that way it's not necessarily in the public domain, but you've got it.
yes,
Could I request, please, that when you do the supporting information, bookmarks that we check. Well, I've been putting them in, so it's really nice for everybody else.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they have hard copies.
Yeah.
Sorry.
we actually have both.
Yeah, so if you put that
I
at
do try. It's sometimes it's oh my God, I've got to get this out now. They are, but I will try.
Okay.
And reduce the file sizes.
We reduce it as much as possible. I reduce it. Yeah, and I've done that as well. It depends on whether
Okay. Yes, Lane has a question.
Yes, James Coleman.
Oh, that's uplifted.
It's uplifted.
It's
Yes.
So now we want a report or a photograph of the container.
Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
we will do that. Thank you.
The only one that is not uplifted at the moment is the $5,149
CCTV.
to Rangitani Residents Association CCTV. And it's because I can't get in contact with them. They're not responding to their emails all the time. They provide them with education.
I know that
That's last financial year.
I've been make a phone.
Yeah, Lane can follow that up for you.
I've sent them a few emails.
It might, that from recollection, I think that was going to be mounted on road reserve, legal road. So it may be that they need approval to replace or access that. But Lane, if you could follow that up.
I have a feeling that a couple of people that were driving it have blown away.
And the email address we had was like a residents association email address.
Right, okay.
I don't know that anyone's monitoring that now. I don't know anyone.
I'll that one.
Lane, follow that one up. Okay, lovely. Move myself, seconded Bruce. All those in support? Against? That report's carried. And finally, we have our action sheet. Item 8.4, Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board Action Sheet Update. That the Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board received the report, Bay of Islands-Whangaroa Community Board Action Sheet Update. Do I have a mover? Bruce and Jane, thank you. So this first one, which is yours, Jane, not yours, it's in your territory. This task hasn't actually been completed, but it now sits with Council's Encroachment Officer and NTA. So I think we can actually take that off our action sheet and just keep an eye on it and see how it progresses and what the outcome is.
I'm sure Tony has.
I'm sure. Sure. Okay, so we can remove that one. Second one, yes, I'm quite happy to remove that too. This is something that council are dealing with. As you're aware, this came out from Councillor Smith when I was sitting on the Strategy and Policy Committee in the previous council. And this is now being dealt with other staff members as per the comments in the note column there. So I'm quite happy to remove that. That will become part of VAU. Cherry Park House, Amy, have you met with them at all? Or, oh, great. Yeah.
Just a pre-AGM meeting.
Okay.
Met with Frank as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we're just waiting now. That meeting last year.
Yeah.
Darren, James, and
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. It's just that you're going to be sitting as the representative on that committee. So you'll keep us informed of any action moving forward. So I guess that probably needs to just stay on there at the moment till we get a bit more action.
Correct.
As a result of the AGM coming up.
Well, I don't know if they'll have any, not really them, it's council.
It's council, but they also may want to contribute to, I mean, they're a pretty good committee to work with, so.
They're asking me though what's.
Okay.
Usual answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you might want to follow up with Darren and see, where he's at with that, but it is work in progress.
Yes.
And amenity lighting. Hey, that will be yours.
Yes.
You're working still.
I met with Jeanette English
in London.
and we pointed to the places in the ground where they should go. And I believe Jeanette's in agreement with that. She's going to confirm price. Didn't tell you the original price. But
yeah.
She's going to confirm price and it's got to be trenched.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Okay. So the spot marks X times 2 has been identified.
Yes,
and we're
all
at step.
club is happy.
Okay.
You know. Yes, we move forward. Not quickly, but we move forward.
We will. So we're a step closer to being able to shine a light on the domain.
Are we taking this off because of the update?
Do you want to take it off, Lane? You happy that? Yep, the job's not done, but everything.
It's with facilities.
Lane, your end of the job's done. You've identified the location and now it's operational.
Okay.
So I'm happy that can come off too then. Okay. Doing well on our action sheet. Very good. Right, that brings us to the end of. Moved Bruce, seconded Jane. We received the updated action. Board action sheet update. All those in support? Against? So that's carried, and that brings us to the end of our meeting. And there was nothing else we had to add to that. Tabled items, you've got the.
Oh, this was for the doggy. It circulated that yellow.
That's fine. And I'm happy that we dealt with the funding application for the young farmers in the right manner. So with that, we can close the meeting with Karakia. Anybody like to offer, Jane?
Yeah, I'm tired of shit. That's fine. I don't have the answer. 15 minutes on there. Why are you?
Thank you.